And it's the Anything Podcast. I'm Ro Jogan.
I'm Bon Burgundy.
I always forget about this.
I don't know how you keep forgetting
I'm
this
Chris.
thing. No.
And you're... All right. I'm Aaron. You're Chris. Let's get into it.
Me llamo Ore. ¿Cómo está? Hola.
I don't know what my name is in Spanish. I guess it's just Aaron.
I think it would be. Mi llamo is really Chris, but yes. I am Chris. How is everybody doing today? So, first topic we need to cover is our privacy on our phones and if our phones are listening to us. So, a couple weeks ago, for anybody who's just coming on, you first need to go back a couple weeks and listen to all of our podcasts. But if you want us to save you a little bit of time, we'll kind of tell you. But so a couple weeks ago, we decided to say, are our phones actually listening to us? So we left our phone out. We had it right here next to us on the table, both facing upward. Didn't really matter, actually. But we had it facing upward because we don't want the glass to get all scratched. Neither here nor there. So we decided to say, do our phones listen? So we wanted to come up with something that neither of us have looked, neither of us have talked about, searched for, or anything, and started talking about it. So we talked about coolers, and we were talking about the Yeti cooler in particular. Just saying a cooler didn't matter. So for that entire week, we did not receive any advertisements for coolers whatsoever. And I have an iPhone. You have an Android.
I have
Aaron.
Android.
So we're like, okay, well, we're trying two different things. And then we decided to turn on the phone and open up. I was in Facebook, and you were in, I believe, on Amazon.
Oh, yeah, I did do Amazon. You're right. Yep.
Yeah, so you were on Amazon.
Yep.
And what were your results? Have you received any advertisements or anything for a cooler?
I was very disappointed, and I know that other people out there have been in a situation. For example, I was talking to my brother.
I'm not asking about everybody else right now. I'm asking, did you?
Yes. No, there were no results.
Okay. Same here. So what we are going to do right now is we're going to text each other through text message. Unfortunately, you don't have Facebook Messenger.
No.
So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to text some random person that I just decide to click on and say I want to, say something about a cooler, and then see if texting the word or something like that will trigger a advertisement to come in because you don't have Facebook. I do. And so we're trying different ways, but so far we've actually been unsuccessful. So for the first podcast that we did this on, we said the word cooler a bunch of times, that we were looking for coolers, that we needed a cooler for whatever stupid thing we didn't really need a cooler. But then we decided to have our phones open to see if they would listen at all, and they haven't. So now let's text each other. I don't know if that's what you're doing right now.
Nope, I have another thing to talk about.
Okay, well, we're going to do that first. So I'm texting you, Aaron, right now. And I'm going to say I'm going to ask you, do you know of a good cooler that we should get for the barbecue, BBQ? So I want you to put text back Yeti cooler is a great cooler. And we are not sponsored by Yeti, but Yeti, if you're listening, you may reach us at therealanythingpodcast@gmail.com. Did you get it?
Replying now.
Okay.
All right. There we go.
Yes, Yeti cooler is a great Yeti cooler. All right, so now what I'm going to do is try and find somebody. Oh, here we go. That'll work. What did I text earlier? So, do you... Cooler. the person that I'm sending. So I just sent a text or a Facebook message to somebody saying pretty much the exact same thing. Do you know of a good cooler that I can get for next week's barbecue? That person that I just messaged is probably going to message me back and be like, what the fuck are you talking about? So that's where we're at right now. We're currently at the point where we don't have any positive results to tell us. So either our phones are in good settings that we have, where you can set it, because I believe you put yours on more private settings.
Well, I just don't have any of the apps, so that's the whole thing. Like I don't. Amazon. Maybe
you were on
Amazon.
The website, though?
I was on Amazon's app, so I am
on the app. So
yes.
you were on the app.
Yes,
so
I keep forgetting I have Amazon app.
The question is, was it listening? And the answer is no, it was not.
Apparently not, or we didn't say a keyword of an advertiser that is hiring to them. Like
I'm pretty sure cooler in this time.
I would think
right
so
now,
too,
because it's the middle of July.
Yeah.
That they should be out there in full force, because there's a lot of barbecues coming.
Yeah.
And even more barbecues coming, like with Labor Day fastly approaching in a month from now.
Now, what I have done before, I don't know if I mentioned this, is when I had the Facebook, I opened the Facebook Messenger. No, I had my Facebook app on, and through text, I sent text to myself, text messages, that I wanted a new pair of jeans and a new pair of shoes. And when I went on Facebook, I got advertisements for jeans and shoes. So
clothing, but clothing is always on that, because everybody needs clothing. So it's one of those things.
That's why I did two things. So I'm like, I need jeans and shoes. And when I went on Facebook, and they were specific. So when I went on Facebook, I got ads for that specific jeans and shoe company that I texted myself. So it's for sure, no doubt.
The plot thickens.
Well, it's no doubt that you have the app on your phone is reading your own text messages. Is the app on your phone reading someone else's text message? That's one thing. But you're agreeing to that when you sign up for the app.
Yeah, but did you hear the good news?
What's the good news?
That Facebook has gotten fined for misleading customers. Or misleading its people with privacy.
Yep.
So that's a good thing. So I'm hoping that they have to change their stuff and making it much more transparent, because it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Plus, up here, why are you messaging me on Facebook?
That's funny.
I'm gonna text this person back and be like, "This is a test."
Say, listen to the Anything podcast on the internet to find out. Free advertising.
Listen to the Anything podcast.
That's hilarious. All right. Well, you're doing that. So first, I know that now that's part of
actually. So the person I did message, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but the person I did message when we were talking about coming and all that, women coming and
yes,
they're like, I want to hear that podcast. I'm like, okay, you're gonna have to just listen to them all, because I don't remember which one it was.
Oh, I have a photographic memory. It was
we have a lot.
It was minute 2 hour and 45 second of the last podcast, episode 8. Go listen to that. That's not true, people. But the last one we did talk about it at the end. So
that was and then we've done a few podcasts off the air, just to kind of do like dry runs to get our equipment working properly, run through problems, and then when we solved one problem, another problem would pop up and be like, oh, well, now we got to solve it. Yeah. So now we're actually to the point where we've solved just about every single problem, and we're actually uploading at least onto our host domain, where we're running into a few problems there, getting our feed out to everybody else. But by the time you probably come across this and listen or watch, we should be much in a better situation. Yes. And our video, which will be uploaded at some point, which may not be as quick, but that will be on the YouTube, and that will be done as soon as I can get an internet service provider to upload. That is a lot better than the crap that I have to deal with uploading.
Yes,
because let's just say, okay, so you know I have another YouTube channel called Real Rideshare Stories.
Is it Real Rideshare Stories?
Most of the videos are around the 10 to 12 minute or so mark.
How long do those take to upload typically?
That's what I was just going to. Okay. So it can range from anywhere from like 25 to 45 minutes, depending on how fast it wants to upload.
So it's slower than molasses going up a hill.
So it's slower than shit.
Yeah.
So it sucks because if you have a 3 or 4 hour podcast, which is many times more, you know, you're going to be looking at like half a day to a full day of upload.
Yeah.
And that's on a crappy ass tier internet. Even the best tier that this internet service providing company has still absolutely sucks. And some of the basic plans that I can find elsewhere through competition, but unfortunately are not available in the area that I live. So I have to find a way around this to go to an area that has this much better thing called fiber optic network.
Yeah.
And even their most basic plan is 100 download and 100 upload, which completely goes beyond, much beyond the cable internet service provider, which absolutely blows and should have gotten kicked out of the state when it did. But then they bitched and whined, and they're like, oh, but we can fix it. Yeah. We'll give everybody in the state something nice, like a bill credit and then a free Showtime or HBO.
Yeah.
No, get the fuck out of the state.
Yeah.
Actually, what they really need to do is open up for competition.
That's what's problem.
That's the big thing, because there is only one cable provider in the entire area, and they provide the only cable internet. And unfortunately, the whole fiber optic network really needs a change as well too.
There used to be a skit on funnyordie.com about the company. I'm not going to say which one, but it was hilarious. Like, why would we do that? Because fuck you. That's why. It's so funny. Fuck you. And that's what's happening. Like, why, you know, and if I was a company, I get it. Why would you want to monopolize an area? Why would you want competition? And you want to charge everyone as much as you can? Because fuck you. That's why. It's so funny. Like, what are you going to do? Go somewhere else? You can't. Fuck you. It was hilarious.
All right. So I'm doing a very preliminary thing right now, and I'm going on the face of book, or the Book of Faces.
Okay.
And I'm going to scroll through very quickly. If you want to start talking about whatever.
About the Yeti cooler?
No.
Okay. So here's the thing. Well, first of all, Siri. When you have do you have an Apple? Do you have an iPhone? You mentioned.
Yeah.
Do you talk to Siri as your best friend?
No, okay. I really don't.
Well, people are blowing this out of proportion, but it is kind of concerning. So, Apple will take select recordings of your Siri questions.
Yeah.
And
they always record it.
Send them to contractors to try to improve the voice recognition software. It's a very small sample.
Well, I you know what? I'm actually fine with that, only because, I mean, I'm sure that there's probably a story that's getting out that is ridiculous.
That's what's happening.
I honestly, I'm okay with the fact that because one, they're using a sample size that is small, but it's probably ones where it's problematic, and it's to help expand the ability. Yes. So certain dialects or certain accents or anything can be a lot harder to understand. So like, I don't know if you ever watched The Big Bang Theory, but they were doing or making fun of Siri, how Siri wouldn't understand Raj because he had an Indian accent. Right. So they were kind of poking fun at that. But that's what they're doing. They're trying to make it so then, like, if somebody had a really strong dialect or really strong like vocal I can't even think of it, accent, there we go, then it's going to be better for them. So yeah, I understand they do have to send it out to be able to help that. But what they send out needs to have all of its data scrapped, and they need to search it to make sure there's no personal data that's getting out.
Yeah, they don't. There's no identifiable information attached to the recording. Yeah, but what's more concerning is that everything is recorded on a. No matter what you say, eventually, that recording is on a server somewhere.
Well, yeah. I mean, first of all, when you talk to Siri, it goes to the internet immediately because that's where it's searching. Yeah. It's searching for. I mean, there's certain things where it will do on the phone itself.
Yeah.
But most of it goes is outsourced to somewhere to
so
figure
what if it just
out.
went through the internet, did a little computer over the internet, did a computer processing, sent back a result, but it wasn't stored. That recording
that's
stored.
the better way.
Yeah.
For sure, absolutely.
Now, we already talked about this in an older podcast, which may or may not be released. So, earlier a while ago, a person had requested.
You don't know if it was a dry run or one of our dry ones.
Well, I mean, those recordings are good. I mean, we'll have to review and see what we think. Anyway, another time. So, Alexa, a person had requested his recordings from the Alexa. Mm-hmm. And when he got back the recordings from Alexa, it was a different person's recording.
Oh, yeah.
So he called the news company, and through these recordings, he was able to figure out where the person worked, what he did for a living, and all sorts of other personal information because that...
And they were able to find the...
Oh, they found the guy. Yeah, they identified who he was, who his girlfriend was, what he did for a living, and a whole bunch of other personal stuff because that thing's listening all the time and is just sending that recording to your servers.
Oh, absolutely. It's always recording. That's why you should never have an Alexa, and if you do, get the fucking thing thrown out. Yeah. Same thing with the Google Homes. And Siri isn't as bad because there's a lot of protections that Apple put. Apple does have a good privacy protectional thing, even though some of it.
So does Alexa. They just sent the wrong recordings to the guy.
Well, there's a lot of things that go on with Alexa.
Yeah.
Like Alexa would just start laughing out of nowhere. Like even if you didn't talk about it, this was like last year. I think
that had to be a hack. I think someone hacked.
That actually it was part of the AI.
Oh, we never figured out
because part of the AI worked, and then it would do other random things that got to the news. Now, if some of the things were faked on like what it was, that's very possible too. Because I remember they were talking about. I guess there were two people arguing. Like they had an argument.
Yeah.
And then Alexa would like chimed in and said, "Could you stop?" And it was like this really freaky, weird thing.
Yeah.
At that point, I would have picked the damn thing up and thrown out the fucking window and been like, "Get out."
Well, technology is getting really crazy. I remember when people were hacking people's security cameras and webcams in their homes. Do you remember that? And it's just creepy to know that someone might be watching your kid's baby monitor or something.
That's why you always have closed circuit.
Yeah, it's
you don't have to worry about that shit.
Yeah, that's
closed
creepy.
circuit's the way to do it.
Well, the other thing is if you have Alexa on and you say, "Alexa, order me the most expensive drone," that we were laughing at. Is Alexa ordering the most expensive drone now? Can it work through the TV and recordings?
I'm sure that it would probably. I mean, you can do that. You can order stuff because it's Amazon.
Yeah, I read an article about a parrot that accidentally ordered stuff from.
So I mean, it happens all the time where there's messed up orders that shouldn't have been ordered.
Yeah, I got a letter in the mail that I'm part of a data breach.
Who isn't?
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
Everybody
it's the craziest thing. So my medical information was stolen, and I had blood work done. So now someone has my. The type of my blood and my social security number and all this stuff that got hacked. And then the credit bureau breach, I got another thing about that. Yeah.
Equifax.
Yeah.
Everybody, you can get your $125 fee.
Yep.
Woo.
But the whole thing is you have to type in your social security number over the internet to check to see if you're eligible.
Well, make sure you're using a VPN.
Yeah.
Virtual private network.
And even those,
who don't know.
Yeah, how trustworthy are they?
I don't know. It's pretty crazy. But it's I mean, if you get a smart TV and you read the terms of agreement in the smart TV when you're setting it up, it'll actually say that all of your data on the TV is being recorded.
I agree to none of that. I agree to none of those terms and conditions.
That's what you shouldn't. I mean, first of all, you should be able to opt out of that, which is the way to do it.
It should be opt in. I don't even think it should be opt out.
No.
We assume that you want to share us everything unless you tell us no. It should be the other way around. They should have to specifically describe what they're collecting from me at each time, and I could say yes to that, no.
But that's one of the reasons how your TVs are so cheap is because they're paying for
for added wear. I get it.
It's no. They're cheap because they're being offset by the advertising costs that they're selling, because information is a much bigger commodity and you make more money. So these TV companies that are getting what you watch, when you watch, how you watch, and then here's the best part: if there's a little microphone in the TV, that's also being sent out.
Yeah, it's super
shady. For some of those Samsung ones, those Samsung TVs, I don't know if I'm sure there's other TVs, but I know it's Samsung. You could be like, TV on, and it'll turn on. But the thing is, that microphone is listening to you, recording you, and then uploading it every single day.
Yeah, and then they have a computer program that detects the pixels on the TV and tries to decipher what you're watching. So just like... it's crazy. It's like Shazam for TV.
Record.
It's so crazy.
Yeah,
like,
it can
why?
absolutely record
I don't consent to that.
No.
Like, no.
Like, if I want to watch porn, I want to watch porn in peace.
Well, I don't, that's the funniest thing. I don't think anybody cares. Like, what they want to know whether you're watching, like, the soccer game or...
No, I know exactly.
You know what I mean? It's like, but it's creepy that they should even want to... it's just creepy. Everything's creepy these days. It's super creepy.
The question is, how much information is getting out there that you don't even know about?
That's the problem.
And
that's not informed consent.
Yeah. Like who reads 148 pages of a fucking terms of agreement to use a product? Yeah. Nobody's reading that.
There's not enough time in the day.
It's like South Park when they did the Centipede episode.
Yeah. There's not enough time in the day. And the other thing that's just the tip of the iceberg about what a common person like me could find out. So what's going on behind the scenes, that the people who are actually in the know, who are working for these companies, the vast amount of things that you don't know about is just insane. How do you feel about the DNA database, where you can just use the computer to scan through DNA and just look for... They're busting all sorts of people now using these databases for... And I get it, they're looking for rapers and murderers, but it's just creepy to know that they're using familial DNA to test for crime scene DNA, that your DNA is in a database. Mm-hmm. I don't consent to that either. The whole thing is crazy. Like,
That's why I never got my DNA test done, and I don't want to.
They acquire it by other ways, so it doesn't...
No, if you don't... This is like... What you're talking about is if it's... if you send away, like, to 23andMe to get your... Well, I mean, any of the companies. Uh-huh. If you're trying to get...
your blood tested at the doctor?
Yeah, but it's not...
You're in a database.
It's not the same. That's not the same.
I hate to burst your bubble. See, that's what I'm talking about. When you don't understand what's going on behind the scenes, where people aren't telling you what's really happening. This is one of those things.
But here's the question, though, that I have. Because there's so much data that's being mined in so many different ways, how in the hell, one, do you process it? And two, for people that are storing it, how do we not have like these huge giant ass data farms that are like square miles big and like taking over like areas? Because
so where you would need would be like a big area, like maybe in Utah or somewhere.
I mean, like there's a lot of data storage facilities out there. I mean, you can Google them and look at them, what they look like.
Look up the Utah data center on your phone.
Oh, there's a lot of things that are mostly underground because it stays cooler. Uh-huh. But I mean, like, the amount of data that's being collected. So, like, if you just look in one city, they have, all of their data that's being collected for the city itself, is just the cameras that all the cities got. Then you do all of the logging for what the police do, all the logging for the services that are being done for the county or for the city, for the court cases, for the this, that, and the other thing. How people are driving when it's tracking you through, Easy Pass or Fast Pass or whatever pass you might have. And then not only that, then it's, okay, these security cameras are set up to look at you and watch your eyes to see where your eyes go to better advertise to you. So then they're collecting that data, which then in fact has to break down the data even further to get the data points. And then on top of that, so and then not just that, all your Facebook data, all your data that you're getting from your TV, from, everything, from if you upload videos to Facebook, all that stuff is being used.
Yeah.
And the thing is, where's it all being stored? How is it being collaborated? How do you go through all that fucking shit?
It's in the cloud, man.
Oh my
it's
God.
in the cloud.
I'm dodging. No, you know what? It's all right. It's all around us. We just don't see it. We're dodging it every day. We're dodging it every.
The funniest thing I read about that is, I think it was a meme that said the cloud is just someone else's computer.
Yeah,
it's like, yeah.
I mean, that's really what it is.
The cloud is just someone else's.
The cloud is just Apple's computer.
Yeah, exactly.
The cloud is just Google's computer. The cloud is just YouTube's.
The Utah Data Center, also known as the Intelligence Community Comprehensive National Cybersecurity Initiative Data Center, is a data storage facility in the United States intelligence community.
Yeah, but are you talking about the one that's the CIA one?
It's a Vortex 4. I don't know too much about it. I remember when they were building it and people were making a huge hubbub about it.
Because there's a lot of... there's insane amount. It's insane.
Yeah. So, how do you feel about, for example, the internet is a fiber optic cable, or is a fiber optic
Not all
cable.
of it.
Right. But like the backbone of it is fiber optic. They're gigantic, round fiber optic cables. So being
able to transmit massive amounts of data.
Right.
Almost instantly.
So if you had essentially what is this, I'm sure you've seen a cable splitter.
Yep.
That if you had one of those for the fiber optic cable, you could just suck all the data out of those cables, reroute it, record all of it, and then route it back into the right.
Like it would never be. You could literally just put in a filter.
That's what they do.
That just goes.
Right.
And it just sucks out all the information, all the data. But yet it doesn't seem like it's interrupted at all.
It's not. So that's what's been happening since.
Yeah, but that's the same thing. That's almost the same exact thing as, like, if you remember back in the day when they had, how you said with like webcams for your kids.
Yeah.
But before that was the like the walkie-talkies, but because they were the same frequency for phones, they would cross over.
I used to listen to my neighbor all the time when I was a teenager.
Well, not only that, but like most people had the same phone, so it would crisscross. So you pick up your phone, somebody else is talking, be like, "Oh, I'll use the phone in a little bit."
Yeah,
it's like, "Oh, that's
really good." Listen to Barbara across the street talk to her girlfriend.
Yeah, you hear Barbara talking to her girlfriend across the street, and she's talking about how she cheated on her husband.
Yep.
Oh shit!
Juicy stuff when I was a teenager. I think I might get a divorce.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's the whole thing. So you don't know what really is going on behind the scenes. So it's like, well, what are they? The more important question is, what are they using the information for, and what is done with it? So it's like
most of it's being stored.
Yeah.
Why though is the real question.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be stored.
No.
Once it's cataloged, then you don't need the actual data anymore. You just need the data points.
Well, the funniest thing to me was when this whole thing was happening, where they're just sucking up everybody's data. Like, we live in the United States. Shouldn't you be like doing the foreign countries? Isn't that why are you keeping all of our information?
That's what we're doing.
Yeah,
that's what we're doing too.
Well, we're voluntarily giving away our information now.
But before that, even before, our phone calls, the U.S. can't do that.
Yeah.
To its own citizens, but that doesn't stop Australia or Japan or China from doing it, and then just shipping it over and saying, "Oh, well, this is
it's the back door."
It's the same thing like what we were doing that Edward Snowden whistle blew, that we were recording like German phone calls and all these different phone calls, and then just basically giving it to Germany.
Yeah. So like Britain records everything that we do, and if we need it, they give it to us. We record everything they do, and if they need it, we give it to them.
Yep.
It's like kind of like, it's so shady.
I wonder if the only player in the game that probably doesn't would be like Putin in Russia, he's just like, fuck it, I do what I want.
They have yours everywhere, even where this is where I remembered the what do they call the thing that can tap your phone? That's the
wiretap.
No, it's a box that it's for wireless phones that they have. It's essentially a wiretap.
Oh, the Stingray?
The Stingray.
Yeah.
They were finding them all over the place in like around Washington, D.C. that they thought were Russian. They were tapping into people's phones. It's so crazy with technology.
But do you know what's crazy is those things can be the size of a phone.
Yeah.
Like they're ridiculous. So for anybody who doesn't know what Stingray is, it is essentially it's a wireless tower for your phone. So how it currently works on your phone is you're tethered to 3 cell towers to kind of triangulate your location, but you have a main tower that you go through for your data, through your phone calls, through all that stuff. So that's how you connect. You're really through one tower, which is usually the closest, or one of the closest. It just depends on how jammed certain towers are at the time. But you're always bouncing off 3 different towers, always, because it triangulates exactly where you are. So your GPS is essentially within 3 feet. It's more for it's for many reasons, but like emergency services is the reason why it was masked that they did that. So what the Stingray is, it's a device that mimics a cell phone tower. So your phone will connect to it thinking it's connecting to, an actual tower, when in fact all it is just an amplifier. And what you said earlier, where you're taking that information, you're just putting something in there and mirroring it and then just recording and sucking it. That's essentially what it's doing. So it'll get everybody in that area. So all the cell phones that connect to it, it can get text messages, it can get phone data, it can get all this data being transferred back and forth. And you have absolutely no way of telling if you're connected to an actual tower or one of these Stingray systems, because that's what the Stingray system is designed to do. It's designed to mimic a cell phone tower.
Right. And that's what's interesting. So just privacy, that's not freedom, right? Where if you're being recorded
if you think you're
everywhere
free,
you go and everything that you do is being tracked and analyzed, that's not freedom, right? And even I remember when the cell phone technology, the encryption that is used to send your phone signal to the cell tower is relatively weak compared to what it could be. So why isn't everything encrypted? That's my question. So why isn't my phone sending an encrypted signal that can't be broken so that nobody can capture my cell phone waves out of the air?
Some things are.
Some things are.
So iMessage is encrypted.
Right. So
but that's the reason why I'm glad that you don't have an iPhone, because if I texted you through iMessage saying cooler, like what we did earlier, then it won't pop up. It's just encrypted. So the only people that can get that would be you and me. Right. Anybody else who tries to get through, they would be met with this encrypted message. There's other there's other apps out there that do encryption messaging and encryption phone calls.
Well, that's the whole thing.
But the problem is not just automatically on your phone.
That's what I mean. So if you were to take your phone, and I know this is really old-fashioned and it's so 2001, if you were to actually place a phone call to someone.
What are you talking about? Everybody uses the phone now. Texting is going out. Most people are not using FaceTime.
Okay, that's cool.
That's what it's going to.
Cool. All right.
So it's kind of funny. Everybody's actually most people are FaceTiming. So there's actually I gotta say I think there's a kickback to get away from texting.
Good, because you can't tell the tone of someone's.
No.
It ruins a lot of things.
Oh, absolutely.
But if you were even to go, oh, my text is ridiculous, and you were to actually just place a voice phone call, old-fashioned style, to someone, the signal that your cell phone sends out is very weakly encrypted. It's not completely unencrypted so that you can avoid what it used to happen when we were kids with a radio signal and just be listening to other people's phone calls. Yeah. But anybody with a could capture that phone call and listen in. And then it goes through the phone company and that can be recorded. So it's like when we talk about data breaches, there's got to be a better way.
Well, everything. First of all, the internet wasn't created to be what it is today.
Yeah.
It was created for a much different reason.
Yeah.
And it was also for being open, like a complete open source. And until they can do an internet that's literally, you'd have to restart a whole different internet if you want to do something with security and like lock and keys and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
So everything was designed to be open, and then that was the whole reason. So since it was designed to be open, now you had to backlog going backward and come up with these keys and locks to try to get it. But the problem with that is you can pick a lock.
Yeah.
And if you design an internet that is, much more secure, you could do it. It's just that it would change everything, and it would take time. It would be very expensive.
Well, a lot of things now, the data that you're sending from between two things is encrypted now.
Most, yes.
So, which is good. That's a good step forward. But when it gets there, it's still being unencrypted, and that's where all of the breaches are coming from, is poorly secured. Actually, to be honest with you, I think that it's always human error. It's not the computers. It's someone either giving out their password or falling for a tricky email. Who knows?
Because if you ever paid attention to like hackers and what they do, they could use a brute force or attack, which just essentially just runs a lot of different passwords through.
Yeah.
And as certain protections are becoming more and more in place, that type of attack isn't effective as much anymore. It can be for personal computers and things like that, because most people are gonna use one password for everything, and it's gonna be simple so they can remember. I mean, like I think password is still the number one password.
Yeah.
Forever. It makes no sense. Like with all the data breaches that's going on, it's like, I can just type in your email and then type password and be like, I got in, and then be like, okay, well, I see you bank at this bank, so I'm gonna log in. I got your account. Okay, so I got that because I got your email address, so I'm gonna try look, I just got in your bank account. I see that. I found your credit card, so now I got it. And that's not what you should be doing. You should be doing, you should be doing multiple passwords.
There's just so many breaches going on with the internet, I remember I was in a neighborhood like last year or something, going somewhere, and there's a security camera that's like the city-run camera in front of some person's house. It's a little thing in every couple feet, or every down each block.
Every couple blocks.
Yeah, there's I just thought to myself, like, I would hate. First, I wouldn't want to live in a neighborhood where there had to be security cameras. But imagine if you live.
Well, London is plagued with them, and it doesn't matter what area you're in.
Yeah, well, so is New York City. Japan has.
But London is the most notable. Like, you can't pick your nose without it being picked up.
I don't know if Japan overtook them now, but I remember that was about 5 years ago.
Let's see who's got. But
either
security.
Way. Imagine being the person who lives in the house that has that video camera in front of their house, knowing that, if you fall out of your car or something, when you get out of your, if you slip and fall, someone could possibly be watching that and laughing at you, like just the thought of having everything that you do recorded, everyone who comes in and out of your house or pulls up in front of your house or anything that you do. You're on being, and that's not freedom.
Ooh, you want to hear? Okay, so according to the security industry, the top 5 largest security camera network cities are: number 1, Beijing.
China.
Number 2, London.
Yeah, London.
Number 3, Chicago.
Oh, Chicago. That's a surprise. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's just not freedom, man.
No, not at all.
Yeah. I was supposed to. Oh, I'm sorry. It's like South Park. I'm sorry. I thought we lived in a free country. That's crazy.
And yet, which country has the most CCTV cameras in the world? A whopping 30 million surveillance cameras are currently installed across the country in...
Oh, I'm sure it's the United States.
It is the United States.
Of course. Whenever you walk into a supermarket.
But here's the big part. The United States is also a very big country.
Mm-hmm.
There is across in a different area, and I'm not going to say exactly where just yet. I want you to guess.
Okay.
There's an estimated 6 million cameras are watching this country.
Well, the only other place is China because they're insane with their social scoring system.
Nope.
Where is it?
The United Kingdom.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
6 million cameras. And do you know the size of the UK compared to the US? Yeah. And that's insane.
Well, okay, so if you're a shop owner and you want to protect your merchandise from shrinkage and you got the whole place wired up, I get that. When you're going to somewhere like, so, yeah, I know Beijing that when I go into a store, I'm going to be recorded, and they're trying to prevent loss.
If you come in my car, you're also going to be recorded.
Yeah, for sure. And like, that's for your own protection, but just having recording, like tracking you where you go and in public spaces, I think that's over the line.
I can understand when you say supermarkets or you say, going into Walmart or Target or something. That's private business. That's still private business. Sure. And you got to remember, they have millions of dollars of product that's totally sitting in their store right now.
I don't have to go into the store unless I want to.
No, you don't have to. Yep. But if I was the owner of said company, I would want cameras in my store because if I have a lot of shrinkage in my store, which is the term for theft when it comes to your books, shrinkage is a massive factor. So you got to figure out where that's coming from. Is that coming from, things that are damaged? Because if it's coming in damaged, you have to go to the shipping. Is the shipping at fault, or is it going before that? If you're getting shrinkage through, theft, how is the theft? Is it through your employees? Is it through customers? And you got to figure that out. And the only way is through security cameras. Also, if there's any altercation or anything that happens, it's a liability on them. So let's say, some douche comes in and starts groping a woman in the changing room, and that person isn't supposed to be there whatsoever. And obviously, security cameras aren't in there, but where the security cameras are is at the entrance of that, so they know who's walking in, who's walking out. But that's the whole thing. Like, you can see those things happening then. So you can be like, okay, well, that wasn't anybody here. That was somebody else. So you can't hold us liable because we don't condone that. We don't allow that and whatever. I'm perfectly fine with going into a personal place that has surveillance. I don't care.
Private. I don't have to go there.
But going on a public street, like driving, going on the highway, I have the Easy Pass. So there's places, if you go in New York City, it tracks where you're going. So when you're driving, it actually tracks every place you go. Yeah. I don't know how many spots there are, but there's quite a bit, so it can really track where you are. But yeah, there's all these things. Now, should that be there?
Right.
Is the question. So the answer that they're going to say, yeah, it should be there, is because of public safety.
Well, that's what they use for everything.
Anytime you hear the words public safety together like that, they're taking away your freedom.
Yeah. In
some way, shape, or form.
Yes.
So if you hear public safety, they're actually trying to infringe on your freedoms.
Yeah. For example, this whole encryption thing with the Apple case, where they wanted to, Apple fought back against the government and said, no, we're not giving you our phone passwords. We're not weakening our encryption.
They didn't. First off, they said that they don't have the ability to do that because it is encrypted and it's a random.
And they wouldn't.
Well,
we're not going to do this.
It's a random encryption. Yeah. Process, so like people at Apple can't even do it,
and that's how it should be. So now
but what they were fighting was putting in a back door.
Yes.
So if there was a back door, so essentially, if there was a back door, I could then hack that back door and get access to any phone, iPhone or
Which
Apple product that I wanted because of that back door. Right. So there are problems when you do that, and that's the government was pressuring Apple to do that.
Well, they're doing it again.
It wasn't them to try to get them to do to try to get into the phone, because Apple couldn't do that. They were trying to put Apple. No, they couldn't.
They could design a program that broke into. They essentially sent it to another company that did it for them.
No, right? they could do that, but
Apple not only said, we're not even going to try to get into this phone. We're not going to put any resources into trying to get into the phone. Yeah. And we're also in the future not going to bake any backdoors into our software.
Yeah.
And that is, we're never going to do that. Other companies can cave under government pressure. Mm-hmm. Now, again, we're having this same argument again. Politicians want to make companies mandatorily be able to give them essentially a key to get into encryption.
And how far off is that from socialism? Because that's essentially the government saying, we're going to let you do your business, but we're going to have our hand in it if we ever need to see fit. So does that become, I mean, the business itself is still running, mm-hmm. but the fact of the matter is that they're able to go into said, cell phone or whatever. Well, at will.
And history has shown that anyone who has this capability has misused it. That's the problem.
That's exactly what it would be.
Oh, they keep saying, well, and you're right. Well, public safety, we're going to save so many lives. Well, there's got to be other ways. This can't be that crucial for you to be able to essentially spy on whoever you want to willy-nilly and have mm-hmm. the keys. But also, there is a risk in life. We all have risk, so I'm not willing to give up that privacy for the fake comfort of safety.
I'm not either. Safe. I mean, when was the last time you've flown?
It's been a long time.
Before or after 9/11?
Before.
Okay, so never mind.
Yeah, I have a nickname at the airport. It's called Random Bag Check.
No, so okay, I travel often. I fly all the time. I fly half a dozen times a year at least.
Is it better than it used to be with everything getting through security and everything?
Well, I have pre-check now, so yes, obviously, because I just walk right through. But the thing is, TSA is a legit joke.
You think so?
Absolutely. They've done so many tests that you get through. Like,
oh yeah.
I mean, you can take. There's so many things you can take through TSA that's supposed to be banned or not allowed, but yet they still get through all of the time. Like how many times I've brought. How they had the 3-ounce rule that you have to have in this little clear bag. Yeah. When I go and travel, I have this freaking giant bag of stuff for my needs. I like to look decent. I like to look good. So I have my cologne, I have my deodorant, I have toothpaste, I have hair gel, hair wash. I have moisturizer. I have all these different products that I put in there. And hey, guess what? Most of them are liquid. And I never fucking take it out. I just keep it in the bag all the time. And this is before I had pre-check. After pre-check, it doesn't matter. But this is before pre-check. I never took out liquids in my bag. Ever. Not once. And every single time I've flown, just right through. And, I mean, granted, that's nothing because... but that's part of their rules. Right. Like they say you have to have it in a clear bag. You have to pull it out of your bag. Mm-hmm. And then we have to scan it separately from the rest of your shit. And I've never once did that. I didn't give a fuck. I'm just like, fuck it. If you're going to go search my bag, I don't care. Yeah. But TSA is the biggest joke out there. Because you could just do first of all, you could bring a bunch of different shit on and get these different things on. Yep. You could do things that, I don't even want to get into it because I don't want to give other people ideas.
Don't give them ideas. Every time they do the security test, they always do the report. Well, we smuggled this on. We did that on. Here's my question, though. So for me, I think I have a very unpopular opinion because people hate when the TSA agents want to search them or look through their bags and stuff, and they get super offended. the thing that I don't want to do is I don't want to go through the x-ray machine or anything because I'm paranoid about it. Like that, it can't be good for you, right? So I don't want to do that. I will take the physical pat down and whatever. But people get very upset, and I have a very...
Oh, wait, all right, you're talking the X-ray machine, or are you talking about the scanner?
The body scanner.
Full body scanner. Okay.
Yeah, where it's like I don't
go through full body scanners anymore either. I go through the X-rays.
Yeah, well, the X-ray either, because I don't fully understand what that's going to do to cells in my body. That's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about the, being X-rayed. Right. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what that's going to do. Maybe it's perfectly fine. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but I have a paranoia in my head about it, and I'd rather not take the chance. So someone can pat me down, but people get offended when they want to open up your bag and look at your stuff.
Because it's personal stuff.
Yeah. And pat you down, because each person that's not a criminal is like, I'm not a criminal. Why are you doing this to me? But they don't know that you're not a criminal. I think I'm the only person that's like, yeah, pat me down. Oh, I see my butthole? You need to check my asshole? Okay. Because you're in a flying tube going across the country. I want to make sure that every person doesn't have a bomb in their butthole. You know what I mean?
Like, nobody does.
I know they don't. But I don't have a problem with it because you are in a flying metal projectile that, just in case there is a lunatic out there, I want you to find him, get his underwear bomb off of him, and don't let him on the plane with me.
But here's the thing: like you can make a pencil a weapon.
Sure could.
And all you have to do is bring it on and then just spaz out, go crazy, and guess what? Now you have a real problem on your hands.
Chris, now we're eliminating all pencils, and it's for public safety.
Yeah, exactly.
All pencils.
But see here, and that's the problem. Like again, like you just said, there's a certain amount of risk you go everywhere. Mm-hmm. So for you to infringe on my personal space or my personal zone because you have this little hysteria about flying in a metal tube, when the same can be said for the jackass who's driving down the street and says, I don't want to deal with this shit anymore. I'm going to jerk the wheel, and guess who he's jerking it right into?
Not to me, because I'm a defensive driver.
Don't matter.
You're not going to get me.
He's going to jerk it right into you. So that argument's completely invalid.
No, I disagree.
It is 100%.
No. Because there is a risk to life, but trying to eliminate that risk.
But you can't
when
pick
you're going
and
to
choose.
A flying tube.
You can't pick and choose and say, "Oh, well, it's acceptable here, but it's not acceptable all over here."
Yeah. Well,
you can't cherry pick it.
Well, it's the pencil argument. So they're not going to ban pencils on an airplane just because you could use a pencil as a weapon, but they are going to check to make sure you're not, a suspicious person trying.
Yes, but what I'm saying is TSA. Is just a smoke and screens. It's
not.
I
get that.
It doesn't.
Nobody's saying they're completely competent at their jobs. Every year they do their security check, the people always get
failing.
Yeah, they always fail.
I don't know if an airport has done a successful run. Period.
Yeah.
And because they don't give a shit, and two, they know they're not really doing anything.
Yeah. But for me, I'm not offended that they want to look at my butthole to make sure I get on the plane. Check to make sure. I'm not offended by that.
Yeah, no.
Whereas a lot of people are. I'm not. Make sure I'm safe. Make sure nobody's getting anything. Do your best. In fact,
that's absolute invasion of privacy right there.
But I'm choosing to go there. I don't have to fly. And I get it. Like, you're in a flying metal tube. People like to, human beings are people are the worst people.
So how is that different from trains? How's that different from buses? How is that different from
airplanes? Are a bigger target because they get a thrill out of like, oh, it's gonna fall out of the sky. You
sure? A train has much more capability of destruction.
But we're not talking about reasonable people. If they were reasonable people, they wouldn't be trying to blow up flying objects in the air.
You sure about that?
They're not. Anyone who tries to bomb an airplane is not reasonable.
Anybody who tries to do any of that is not reasonable, whether it's in the air or on the ground. So it still doesn't make sense, because here's the thing. Bad people are going to do bad things, whether they want to and find a way to do it, whether you want to stop it or not. Yeah. You just don't want to be in the area they are. Like, do you think that at the Boston Marathon, do you think those people that were standing right there wanted that to happen? No, of course not. And it's a damn shame that shit like that does happen, because then everybody gets in this crazy tizzle and they're like, oh my God, that person's buying a pressure cooker. Why are you buying a pressure cooker? Because I'm going to be starting the can. So it's like it's this hypersensitivity. And then everybody's like, we need to ban pressure cookers, and we can't have them. But yet they're an integral part of a lot of people who use them.
Did you watch that going down?
What, at the marathon?
Yeah. Did you watch the news when it was going on?
Yeah. I think everybody was
hooked. I was hooked. It was like,
but I didn't. I watched it, and then I'm like, "Oh fuck, that's horrible," and then I turned it off.
It was terrible, but I was hooked on it. I could not turn it off.
You know that? You remember that pressure cooker bomb that went off in New York City and Chelsea? Mm-hmm. I was actually supposed to be right over there that weekend when it had, like, not in that area, but like a couple blocks away from where it happened.
And that's I was actually supposed to be there. You're never going to eliminate the people are the worst people. And you're never going to eliminate everything.
But that's the whole thing. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know when.
Yeah.
And like you said, there has to be other ways to be able to do it. Which, first of all, there should be other ways. The biggest thing is learning how to respect our fellow man and woman again. You know, it seems like we've lost that art of respect for people. And I mean, we probably haven't had a very good way because we've had world wars. We've had several conflicts throughout all of human history. So have we really ever had a golden age of respect? Or are we just morphing it because this day and age is different? You know, they always say, well, what happened to respecting your elders or something like that? Well, I mean, what happened with World War II? What happened with World War I? Yeah. What happened with the Crusades? What happened with your tribe versus my tribe? Mm-hmm. What's going on with Berkeley, like UC Berkeley, when there's people that are coming and you have Antifa and other groups that are hit? Mm-hmm. You know, you have all these clashes, but instead, you know, if we stopped focusing on the shock and awe of things like the media loves to do, then we start promoting peace and we start promoting happiness and listening to each other and talking with each other and realizing that, yes, you and I can have different viewpoints, but we can still get along and become friends and stay together and make the world a better place. Yeah. Why can't we do stuff like that on a global basis? And then that way, hey, guess what? Right off the bat, if you start instilling more respect, if you start instilling caring for each other and being passionate towards caring and being well for each other and looking out for each other through all races, through all walks of life, through all orientations, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. If you are a person, you're being looked out for through everybody. And once you start doing that where it's more and more and more, you know, that's how it starts spreading, where it's more and more. And then all of this other stuff that's around, like public safety, can go away because everybody's already working together and working conveniently in a more utopian style. But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that because that doesn't get ratings. Like, oh my God, this and this and this get ratings. Like on my YouTube channel, when I post things where it's like a more negative side or negative connotational thing, it gets a lot more views because it's controversial. But then when I post something that's the opposite, I get a lot of great feedback from people saying, oh, wow, that's awesome. I like that. That's cool. But it doesn't get anywhere near the same amount of views because, you know, it's not as entertaining. And it's like, oh, my God, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
What's going to go on? What's going on? Like that. And so, like, even when you can take, like, the negative and crazy things and then have it spun in a positive, but you have to take it. The beginning part still is the negative standpoint instead of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just the way we've been conditioned. So now we have to recondition that and change everything because yes, we can change things and we can make it better, but we also have to realize that we have to do other things and we have to change our whole mindset. Like we can't be like, oh my God, that person, like at an airport, oh my God, that person looks like they're from the Middle East. I got to watch them extra closely because chances are, they're just like, hey, leave me alone. Mm-hmm. That was some douchebag, a couple of douchebags that decided to do something stupid, but yet I'm here with you, and we're both trying to get a better life.
Yeah, I deal with that a lot just because of the way that I look, so I'm trying to work on that. But, you know, anyway.
Well, you can't really change the way you look without plastic surgery.
Well, I'm getting that. Yeah, I'm definitely getting that. But what you said about
who are you going to look like?
Michael Jackson,
Adam
getting
Sandler?
the Michael Jackson surgery.
Oh, you should get you should get the Adam Sandler so you could look like him.
I probably could.
Stop looking at me, London Tower or Big Ben.
Yeah.
Wow.
What you said about reprogramming. I'm glad that you said that we need to teach and really reprogram and re-educate people, because we are in a we're exposed to violence ever since we're young, when we're born. There's violent movies.
We've been exposed to violence since the dawn of humanity.
Right. So, and I do firmly believe in education, and we don't have to educate on violence. We can educate exactly what you said: compassion, caring, working together, listening, working through problems.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And that has to be a shift in around the world, because we aren't in tribal times anymore where we're fighting another tribe.
No,
we can all work together as a global economy. We've got everything. Yeah. We've got all the technology down to do it. There are enough resources for everyone to survive and live a decent life.
Well, unfortunately, it's going to take an evolutionary change.
Of course.
And until that time, it's not going to, because the problem is we still run off a fight or flight method, because when our brain gets overloaded and shuts down, it turns off your logic and reasoning vector, which is your frontal lobe, and it goes back to your inner brain, which is the more ancient brain, and that is your fight or flight. So that is you versus me, and then like is like. So that means if you look like me, if you sound like me, if you have the same interests as me, then I trust you more. But yet, if there's a person who looks the opposite of me, who has different viewpoints, who different thoughts, or different experiences from beginning to now, you could be an enemy. You could come here and try to take from me, and that's the mentality that we need to get away from.
Right.
And unfortunately, until we're able to evolve beyond that, it's going to be a very tough go, because there's a lot of things that are triggered in your inner brain that you don't necessarily know because of how complex it is.
Yeah.
So the logic and the reasoning that's behind it, like I can look at somebody who's completely different than me, and I can be like, "Hey, what's up? What's going on?"
I think it's getting better as we become a global.
I believe it is too, but there's these narratives that you see that continue to bring up that fact.
Right.
Like, so whenever you see a news article, it has to say like 2 black men were arrested. Why can't you just say 2 men?
Oh, I'm with you 100%.
Like, why do we have to continue with this narrative?
We're continuing the separation
of separating who did what, and just saying 2 men or 2 people or whatever. It doesn't matter.
No, I agree.
It doesn't matter if they were black. It doesn't matter if they were white or red or yellow or green or white.
The fight or flight is a different thing to me. I don't necessarily think that we need to not have fight or flight mode anymore, because I don't. In fact, it's the funniest thing. A little dog, when I was riding my bike the other day coming home, a little dog ran out of the bushes and was like barking at me. And it was terrifying for a split second, because you don't know what it is, and you're under attack.
That's
and that fight or flight, I sped up my bike and got out of there. And it's about 10 seconds later, once I was able to realize it's just a crappy little barking dog that someone wasn't watching. And it also was nighttime. I should set the setting.
Well, I mean, we still need fight or flight.
Surviving, but in public, I think everyone, it's getting better to where you're like, okay, that person physically looks different than me, but we're working on not making, and there's always going to be a split second judgment, but our intelligent brains are overriding and giving those people a chance.
That's when the logic and reason starts coming back. But it's the initial reaction from the brain, which is the inner, which takes over. It shuts off.
I don't have that unless something's threatening me, and then I'm glad that I have that.
Yeah, but there's also there's a lot of things that happen unconsciously that you don't necessarily know. Yeah. And you don't necessarily, I mean, you might, you could have some predisposition towards, anything
that
you don't really know.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of working beyond that.
Yeah.
So that's really what we need to do. And until we can, until we can say, go to Korea and say, North Korea, South Korea, put aside differences, U.S., Cuba, put aside differences, U.S. and Iran, put aside differences. If you start doing these things and say, okay, well, hey, you're Muslim, you have this thought process. That's cool. I have this upbringing. Then you have a Catholic and a Jew that are right next to each other, and they say, okay, I have this upbringing, my thought process, and they're all sitting in the room and they're saying, hey, you know what? That's cool. You guys have your thoughts, I have my thoughts. They're a little bit different, but we can all be right. So what can we bring to the table to make the world a little bit better of a place? And, that way then everybody looks at it. So yes, there are certain factors that people are going to always associate with that are going to be different. So like that news article I said, why can't it just say two people? It's that right there. But like, obviously somebody who's Muslim, that's part of their religion. Somebody who's Jewish, that's part of their whole heritage. Same thing with Christian, that's part of their entire heritage. So there's certain things. It's just that we don't need to project ourselves saying our way is the right way, your way is the wrong way, you are the enemy.
Yeah,
like we can't do that. We have to be like, okay, my way is my way, your way is your way, but let's build a better tomorrow.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I was thinking about the other day, and I've said this before on, again, a podcast that may or may not be aired. What I've really been thinking about is opposable thumbs. Okay, so I can take my hand and I can pick this container up, and I can use my opposable thumbs to hold tools and build things, and every single thing that human beings have accomplished.
There's quite a few animals that can make tools.
They can, but they don't have... they use basic tools, whereas they can figure out things, and there are some amazing animals, look them up on the internet. But everything around us, houses, buildings, cars, vehicles, it's all because someone has taken their physical hands and either made something themselves or developed a technology to make something and produce things and machines, and we've evolved that way. So a lot of that has been used for good. We got a machine that prints bottles to hold a liquid that I can buy at a store. We've got a machine that keeps it cool and I can use it. But think of all of the weapons that you were talking about in like World War I, World War II.
That's not to do with the weapons. That has to do with the reason why it started.
No, but listen, so what I'm saying is the physical energy that is used. So I was watching Humvees get dropped out of a C-130 gigantic air. I don't know if that's the right plane. The big cargo plane. I was watching Humvees get dropped out of the back of an airplane that then have a parachute on it. Yeah. Now these are Humvees. They're gigantic vehicles in this thing. And I'm watching, and then just think of the C-130, right? Now think of all of the energy and the power and the technology of every single person that designed the engines on that airplane, that designed to be able to fly and drop that thing out. Think of that was put towards something that didn't have the capability to eliminate other human beings' lives, right? It was put towards something that was positive, like curing diseases or, providing clean water to somewhere.
Okay, but the problem is that hammer that was designed to build all of the buildings that we have has killed more people than you give credit to. So it's not a thing of weapons.
No, it's a choice. Every human being has a choice on what they want to do with their energy.
It has nothing. Yeah, but the thing is, you're going on an outcome basis instead of the beginning basis.
No, I'm saying is you have a choice. You don't have to build a weapon.
See, the thing is, that's not even part of the argument. The part of the argument you should be focusing on is, first of all, why would there be two people that go so pissed off at each other that they've had multiple wars over? And I mean, first of all, why did World War I start? Mm-hmm. Do you know why?
No. Wasn't it because like Sirhan or someone got killed?
It was the Archduke.
Oh, okay. Archduke Ferdinand?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you remember that?
No, you know what? I told her one thing I regret in my life is not paying attention to history.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't want to talk about it too much because I don't know that much, but we'll go back to the Crusades. The Crusades are the holy wars, which were fought between the Christians and the Muslims. So here's the thing. Those are two competing ideologies. They're both good inherently because they're trying to embrace a better life. They're trying to do this, but one side of it says, well, this is the right way. Your way is the wrong way. Yeah. We need to show you the right way by force. But, and then the other side of the table said, no. You are wrong. We are right. And we need to show you we are right by force.
Yes.
And that's the whole problem that we need to change. It has nothing to do with anything that's been made. It has to do with how we begin the interaction. So these two groups of people, the Muslims and the Christians, instead of them getting together and saying, my way's right, no, my way's right, it should be like, well, our way is right, and you have a very plausible way. We don't believe what you believe, but you know what? You still have good thoughts, you have good ideas, but we're going to put that aside. Yeah. But these thoughts you have about object X, I'm really intrigued by that. How can you explain that more? And then that group, like of who's working on this object X, all of a sudden says, hey, and you have both sides now where they can work together on object X. Or you have the two groups, and maybe one of the group is working, or one part of the group is working on, service B. So then the other side is like, wow, that works really well. How are you doing that? And then, we've noticed there's a few problems here. This is how we could tweak it, and let's work together. So now, instead of having two forces that are against each other based on an ideologically based on an ideologic belief, long day. Based on that, they're then eliminating all the possibilities beyond that,
right?
Where they could be like, oh, I like working on cars. Oh, so do I. So these groups of people. So that's where their commonalities are. So these two groups of people, just in one little area, have massive amount of difference. But when it comes to other things, they probably are more alike in many different ways. So if they can, again, put aside those differences and say, you have your idea, I have my idea. That's cool, but let's work towards, I really like this car. Cool. Okay, I really like helping society be able to transport goods around faster. Logistics. So I've had this idea. Oh my God, I had the other idea. You put them together, and hey, guess what? Now the puzzle works. So that's the beginning part. You need to it's the beginning part,
right?
Not everything beyond that. Everything beyond that is null and void.
Well, it's systematic.
But that's the thing. Everything beyond that's null and void. It's the initial. It's the beginning.
Well, that's a great point.
It's what we need to focus on at the first is saying, it doesn't matter what your beliefs are. It doesn't matter. Okay, well, Trump. Are you pro-Trump? Are you anti-Trump? Are you this or that? Are you it doesn't matter. Because, this person over here and this person over here disagree on one issue. But when you start talking about other things or other interests or hobbies or joys or what they want in life, hey, guess what? Now things start to mesh. And now this person that's really passionate about artwork, this person is really passionate about that artwork too. So then they're like, oh, hey. And then guess what? Now they're on two different sides, but they're still on the same side.
Oh, right.
So, and that's the whole thing. What is it? 98.9% of everything we agree on, but it's this small little smidget that is pitting everybody and positioning everybody against each other.
Right.
That's not what it should be focused. It's eliminating that little tiny difference and focusing on the whole array of everything that makes everybody similar and likenesses and hobbies and all those things, because that's really where it lies.
Right.
So if we can actually transition to, instead of finding the problem with you, like you and me sit across from each other, instead of me trying to find the problem with you to give me a reason to hate you, I find all the different reasons why I like you.
Yep.
And work together with you. And then when we have a little discrepancy in, a viewpoint or a thought point or a process, we don't have to worry about that. That's not the big deal. Everything else should hold much more weight. But yet the problem is it doesn't.
Yeah.
And that's where we really need to.
Well, that's a great
position.
point. That's a great point. The solution to this systematic problem, this evolving problem of violence around the world, is exactly what you just said. It's a great point. That's the solution. And it starts with education from when you're young. You need to educate people on compassion and caring and I really think if you want to talk about solution to how to get people to stop being violent, to stop hating the other, the different, and to also stop partaking in technology that has the ability to destroy the other. Mm-hmm. It all starts with education. I've also often talked to this with a friend of mine. People, when you go to school, they're not teaching you how to understand yourself, your emotions, all of these things that are produced in the world that are used for violence. They're produced either out of fear and anger. Mm-hmm. And, I build a weapon because I'm afraid or...
Well, first of all, that's not why they were created. First off, they were created because we needed to hunt and get food. That's where it originally started. And then it was, there's a tribe over there that has what I want. Yeah. So I don't have that. And then that same tribe that's on the other side is looking at the tribe back and saying, they have what I want, but I don't, and I don't have that, so I want it. So instead of them collaborating with each other, and talking it out,
and
they went to war at each other.
If we work together, we can all have
from there. And then we went down this path that said, like, tribe, safety in numbers, safety in this, that, and the other. So they said, and it's just that the tribe got bigger and bigger and bigger to now nation sizes, but yet protection is still a major thing. Like, you go outside and you go outside of a city a little bit and you're in the middle of nature, and hey, guess what? There's things out there that'll kill you, and just because they'll do it.
Right.
Like, it has nothing to do with our thought process and saying, oh, well, I'm designing a bow and arrow that is designed to take out an enemy or take out food, or design a gun that can take out food or take out an enemy. That's again, that's an end result of a millennia and a whole history from beginning to now.
Right.
So it's just something that's instilled itself. But again, that's a result of the action, when in fact, again, those two tribes at the very beginning, I look at tribe B and say, I want that. I don't have it. And they were looking at me saying, I want that and I don't have it, but I'm going to take it. Yeah. And that's what it was. Instead of saying, hey, you know what? How did you get that? Let's work together. Oh, I have this. Yeah, let's work together.
And if we could all work together, we could all have everything. And that's what the global economy is, right? But people still have fear of not having, and fighting over resources is ridiculous. But also, when there is a conflict,
because that's instilled generation by generation all the way down. Yeah. So if it would have started at that get-go, you would have had an evolutionary chain that would have branched off in a different way.
Of course.
And that would have been working together. That would have been collaborating.
Right.
Like one of the biggest things that I've seen too, and I'm sure you probably, is comedians back, a few years ago, about 10 to 20 years ago, if you watched comedy, they would all knock each other out. They would want to be known as the best, and they wouldn't want to collab with other people. They wouldn't. They'd only work with the same amount of people. They wouldn't work. It's
still like that. I think there's always competition.
There's competition, but it's different. I think lessened. So like let's say like a really strong comedian. I don't even want to name a name, but let's just say a really strong comedian said, I'm only going to work with these people because they're worse than I am.
Yeah.
So it's going to make me shine.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring some bad people with me because I want to shine. But instead, what you see today, you're seeing a lot more people starting to collaborate with each other in different ways.
Yeah.
And whether that main person, the main comedian, has a really good opening act for them, and then they're not as good, it seems like they're okay with that. They're more cohesive with each other. And then the same thing can be true for YouTube. So like one of the big things is, again, my channel is Real Rideshare Stories. So I do a lot of different things within the rideshare industry, whether it be, tips and tricks or showing what happens on rides or what happens to drivers or passengers or a lot of different things like that. I collab with other YouTubers in that same field. So, I know Dylan from the Rideshare Hub. Him and I do stuff together, and I do stuff on his channel quite often. I also talk with Dustin from Dustin is Driving, and he has, his channel is much larger than mine, but him and I chat quite often, a couple times a week. And we're all talking about doing collaborations because, he's got an audience that I might not have, or I cover certain things, or same thing with Dylan, or, these different people that we can all kind of collaborate together. And yes, we're all in the same field, we're all in the same aspect, but instead of competition, we're working together because we're just trying to create better content and better abilities, and it helps grow our channels all together at the same time while we're collaborating, instead of being at each other's throats and saying, oh, look at this person, they're a moron because they don't know what they're talking about, so I'm going to knock them down. There is somebody in that arena of rideshare that has started knocking people down within rideshare and saying, oh, this YouTuber don't know anything. This YouTuber doesn't know anything. This person is also a person who doesn't know anything. And, they're starting to lose a lot of people. They're starting to lose followers because now they're going at odds instead of, collaborating with people. So they're trying to, pit themselves, and people aren't having that anymore. People want the coherence, and they like that. That's the whole positivity thing. So like I say, with working together with other YouTubers and collabing, it just grows us bigger and stronger. And this other person who's pitting out other people, he's only going to have a fizzling last few breaths, and then all of a sudden it'll be snuffed out because nobody wants that anymore.
Well, and it is what you said. Working together makes everything better for everyone. Mm-hmm. And eliminating,
100%.
Being angry and letting your emotions run you and eliminating other things doesn't help anybody. It never will. Here's my question for you, Chris, since you're... this was an article that was in, I think, the Washington Post. So go check out the Washington Post. Let me find it. Yep, it's the Washington Post. So, in God we trust.
Oh, the one where they're painting it on school halls.
So, for people who are listening, in God we trust.
Which is a staple on the United States currency.
Yes. So that was my first problem. In God we trust is mandatory in all schools in a state. Let me see what's South Dakota. South Dakota now must have In God We Trust displayed in every school, painted, and it has to be a certain height and a certain width, and 12 inches by 12 inches at least. Here's my question. Now, first of all, I've always had the issue with In God We Trust on the money, and I understand why it's on there. But we are supposed to be a country that is welcoming to everyone and all beliefs. That's why people came here, to escape oppression, then why do we have this? Why am I forced? I don't know what in God we trust means, and why am I forced to in God we trust? Thoughts?
I really don't care.
You don't think that it's important?
No, I don't think it's a conversation. I mean, not conversation. I don't think it's it's one of those things where it's just there, and if you put too much thought or effort into it, it's one of those things that nothing might happen out of it. My thought is I don't really care because it doesn't really affect me in any way, shape, or form. All right. I don't care if there's money that says "In God We Trust." I don't care if this, I walked into school and it said it there. I really don't care. First of all, I'm not religious. I did have a Catholic upbringing, but I'm not religious. I don't. That's a different topic of conversation. But honestly, I don't care. And that's the whole thing too, is people will get up in arms about that because, again, they're focusing on this little aspect of things when, it probably shouldn't be done.
Well, there's
no reason. And it's going on to the your way is my way is the right way, and you need to pay attention to that.
Exactly.
But the problem with that is, religion itself, if you look at it, is a good way to bring peace, and it's a good way for people to work together, believing in something that's bigger than themselves, and it gives them, hope for future, hope for something, instead of just looking and saying, well, I don't know, so I'm just going to do what I want and I don't really care. But instead, it can also, provide a lot of people, something for uncertain times or uncertain abilities. So it gives them this belief. I mean, there's the reason why religion is in this world is because people wanted to have this thing that they could believe in, or this thing that they could, resort to, and it could help instill, values and morals into people. So I think that's where people are trying to go with it. They're doing it in the wrong way because, one, it's saying that it's God we're trusting in, but yet it could have been Allah we're trusting in.
That's exactly my point.
Science we're trusting in, or it could have been...
Science is an imaginary belief.
There's a lot of facets of science, though, that are proven and then disproved, or
that's
are
not
thought.
Science.
It doesn't. It's part of science.
Well, discovering different reactions and different outcomes is science.
Yes, but there's aspects to it.
Science is only about facts. That's all science is. It's about facts. But it's not part of religion.
But
here's my
that's
question.
What I'm saying. But if you put in science we trust, then again, it's all still misguided.
I would feel much more comfortable with that because that is open-ended than someone trying to force their opinion of this person on you. And you made the point for me. Why isn't it in Allah we trust, or in the
well, and that's like what I said. I mean, first of all, this country was founded for religious freedom from persecution
as long
for
as
Christians,
as long as it's
and
for
Puritans,
the religion that you believe in.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what it was designed. That's because all of the...
As long as it's Christians, you can practice any religion you want.
You have to remember that when the country was founded and getting going, that freedom for religion was, you had the Protestant, you had the Catholic, you had, the Lutheran, but they all still believed a lot of the same things. There was just different discrepancies, but it was still the same side. Same thing with Judaism. It's still very similar because the only difference is one believes Jesus is the Son of God, one believes Jesus is a prophet. Yeah. That's really it. That's the main difference. So one's stuck in this thing that hasn't changed in over 2,000 years. This other one has changed about 30 some odd years, however long Jesus was born for. And that's really essentially the only difference between, there's more to it because there's a lot of practices and stuff.
So what would you do if someone came to you and said, you know what, your business right now, at your business, you have to put up in God we trust right above where people order their whatever they're going to in your business. What would you do in that situation?
Again, but that's the thing. You're changing the whole.
No, but
game.
For you personally.
Yeah, but you're changing the whole game. Before you said a school in South Dakota. Again,
no,
it doesn't.
Not a school, all schools.
That it still doesn't matter. A school, all schools. Okay. It doesn't matter because it's in South Dakota. I'm not in South Dakota. I don't see it. It's not. It doesn't affect me any different than it affects you. The people it affects is the people in South Dakota. So the people in South Dakota are the ones who should have the voice on it. Yes, you can ponder and think about it, but now when you change the entire game and say, oh, you have a business and it has to say in God we trust, well, then there's a difference of opinion there because now it's affecting me.
Okay.
So I don't necessarily waste my time thinking about things that don't affect me.
Right.
Because it's not energy I need to exert. The energy I want to exert are things that can affect me.
So hypothetically, they just passed a new law and Dan D, code enforcement person, comes to your business and says, right now you have to put in God we trust above your business. What would you do then?
I'd be like, no.
Okay.
Have a good day.
It's okay for you as an adult to say, no, I'm not going to do that. But this in God we trust is being forced upon a bunch of children who are supposed to be learning and developing and being taught how to form their own opinions and weighing their own beliefs. They're being forced to read this every day to guide them towards believing in this in God we trust.
Yes, but
that's okay because they're children. First of all, okay for adults.
No, that's not. That's the comparison isn't even legit.
Sure it is. They could never pass a law where they say we're going to put in God we trust in every business. Every business owner who didn't agree with it would fight against it. They're putting it in schools.
It's the same thing. Parents can still do the same exact thing with their children. Yes, but that doesn't mean anything because kids can't say anything because they're not adults yet.
Exactly. That's the worst part about it.
But the parent is the one who's advocating for their child.
They are now.
And it's up to them if they want to do it. So you can't say you can't make you're going apples to oranges because
it's not.
Yes, it's
not okay to force kids into doing some weird belief system.
I didn't say it was, but see, here's the thing. You're going around all these weird little curtails, but that's not the thing. Like, again, I mean, I can understand why they might want to put in God we trust. Maybe because it's a logo that we've had imprinted on our money. Maybe they want to do it. First of all, what's the reason why they want to do it? Did they give the reason? Has there been a reason that came out?
Well, again,
that's the question.
What you said, the reason doesn't matter.
But I want to know what the reason is because somebody who made this policy or made this decision or the people that made this decision had to be swayed by a certain reason. So what was that reason that swayed them? It's the same thing with like when they did marijuana ban. It's the same thing when they went back in the early Prohibition time when they were trying to get marijuana outlawed. They were swaying public opinion for the reason because they of whatever reason they wanted.
It says we want to keep the legislator who advocated for it says that they want to keep the hope alive and that in this time our nation needs to trust in God. So
that was the reason?
That's the reason they're putting it in.
That doesn't even seem like a well thought reason. Like they're putting hope in, but
they don't want. They feel like it sounds like they feel like the belief in God is kind of waning. In this time, they want to also in such horrid times. We need to also teach our kids to believe in God. That's
I understand.
Reason
I understand the whole reason why they're doing it. And when you said that,
I get the money argument.
No, it has nothing to do with money. What it has to do with is the fact that. Most people, again, are brought up in some sort of religious background.
Yeah, this guy.
And for that. But the thing is, what they're trying to do is they're trying to put something out there that can make people question that is there God out there? How they're doing it is not right. It's not the right way to do it. Yeah. Again, it's saying, it's again teaching people instead of saying, oh, they're different from us, to be, how are they like us? How is that your friend, or how is your foe like us or like you? Where are your commonalities? If you start doing that and start bringing, caring and compassion and wonderment and joy and all these positive things, instead of, he's trying to put it in under this label that, unfortunately, again, it inflicts problems towards other people, because in public schools, if you're Muslim, if you're Jehovah's Witness, if you're Buddhist, if you're any other religion, you could have problems if you don't believe in God. That per se.
Not only that, you're a child, so you're not even given all of the options. Like, that's what you're supposed to be learning and developing. If you want to teach about religion, then teach about all religion. But that's the thing.
And
let that kid make that choice.
First of all, they don't teach religion, because religion. First of all, the thing is, religion and state are separate. State and religion are separate.
They're supposed to be. Then how can they put "In God We Trust" on the walls of a school?
Because it was still founded by Judeo-Christian backings. So there's the entire foundation of the United States is in Judeo-Christian principles.
Yeah.
So you're going to have, if it was founded by Muslim principles, you'd have something like probably like Sharia law, or you'd have in Allah we trust, or you'd have a Muslim style principle. Yeah. Or if it was founded by Buddhists, it would be a Buddhist principle. So you would have certain things like that. Maybe in Buddha we trust, or in the universe we trust. So it would be much different, but that's the whole thing. Again, it was based on the fact how this country was founded. It was brought, or basically by British rule that came over, and British rule was the mighty force that was overthrown by the colonists, because they didn't want to deal with what was going on with the oppression that they were receiving from England itself. And there's a lot of things, but again, no, it's not the right way that they should be doing it. And I understand the veil behind it, because they're saying, oh, well, if we could get God back in our schools, because, we took the Pledge of Allegiance out, or we did this, or we took prayer out of school. Yeah. Well, if we put it back in, maybe we can get people to be respectful again. But here's the question. Were we ever all, again, what I first said, are we more respectful today than yesterday, or no? Or did we lose some? To me, it was an illusion, because TV only went so far on certain things. It stayed in this Goldilocks zone of happiness and joy. And you had like the Andy Griffith Show on, and say, hey, Paul. And yet, then down the road, it started introducing, these more risky and more taboo subjects and things, and comedy and fright and horror. And then it started transitioning into, it'll just knock off 48 people because, they were in the wrong place at the wrong times, and they wanted to find this golden thing and all this crazy stuff. So you see the transition there, but that, again, the history of things, were we more respectful and compassionate and caring towards others back in the 1800s, back in the 1900s, back in the, were we really, or are we today? Are we actually more respectful, or is it just
definitely today? By a hair, only by a hair, if you ask me.
And that's the whole thing. It's like, but if you look at TV back in the 50s and 60s when it came out, it was much more respectful. So you have this full sense of what it was like during that time frame, because we weren't around at that time frame, so we don't know, and we don't know how interactions actually happened. Right. And because, again, you were limited in this little bubble of the entire arena, when now the entire arena has a little bit more in it. And that's the whole thing. It's like, okay, well, if we were more respectful, then why did we cause all of these wars from the beginning of time to today that we're still in?
Yeah.
So why can't we just come together at the table, sit down and say, hey, look, you have your differences, I have my differences, but let's focus on what our commonalities are. Let's focus on what where both of our interests that overlap are. And then what problems do you have? What problems do we have? How can we help each other fix that? So instead of it's a whole shift of perspective of mindset going from at the beginning, where instead of you're focusing on this other side, so let's say on the yang, you focus on the yin. I mean, yes, you need balance, and that's what the yin yang is for, is balance, but it's to give the different direction.
Well, even in a more general sense, people have always been separated, and because of technology, they're even more separated to where, oh, that person does this differently and they're way over there. And now that we have technology, which literally could watch someone do whatever they're doing and around the world has become much smaller.
I could literally hit the live stream button right now and throw it on here on my channel on YouTube and just be like, hey guys, what's up? And people would start watching it, commenting and all this crazy stuff. And I could just be doing whatever. I mean, obviously I can't do it. That channel's design, most people are expecting a certain thing. And if I just changed it all of a sudden, it would throw everybody off. They'd be like, what the fuck's going on?
But the world is much smaller. And we understand now that although the water might flush a wrong way in a different country, it goes backwards. They drive on the other side of the road. Yeah, they drive on the other side of the road. That all human beings are the same. We're all the same. We probably all want exactly the same things.
Yeah, just about. Yeah.
But we were so separated, and that's where I think technology is great.
We were separated, but we still do
world wars.
But the thing is, we're still separating ourselves though currently because, again, you have the for Trump or the anti-Trumpers or the pro Trumpers, or you have the Antifa, or you have Black Lives Matter, or you have all these different factional groups that are now saying you need to follow us in every way, or we're going to you're going to be the outcast. Yeah. So even people on the same side of the thing, if they don't share the all common beliefs. Then they're outcasted onto the other side, or they're outcasted into somewhere else.
And that's exactly what this guy who wants the "In God We Trust" on all the schools is doing. He's saying, well, I believe in God. I don't have a solution to all of the horrors that are going on in the world, and there's nothing I can do about it. So I'm just going to rely on my imaginary friend that when I die, I'm going to go to heaven. And I hope that I can spread my beliefs to all of these young people
that believe in God, and there's a lot of people that believe in Allah. There's a lot of people that believe in the Buddha. There's a lot of people that believe in these different things.
This is what I believe in, and I need to make all of these other people believe in that too.
And that's the problem. That's what led to the massive genocide of many Native Americans, both in North and South America, because they were considered quote unquote savages, and that they needed to learn the way of Jesus and be saved because they didn't know it, so they needed to learn it, and we were forced to go and do that. And then you go back further in time, and again it was you need to accept God and Jesus as your savior, and Allah is not the correct answer.
Right.
So we are going to go to war with force.
Right there is the problem.
That's the whole problem. Again, it's you got to stop looking at religion as a separation tool to say you're right or wrong.
Exactly.
And you need to say, well, that's one aspect. That's a belief system that I have. I may feel that I'm right, and I may think you're wrong, but what can you offer and what can I offer you so we can not worry about that, but
don't get me wrong. For me, religion in small doses, when taken properly, can be used for great things. It does give people, to me, to be honest with you, this is my viewpoint on it. You've ever seen a burrow with the guy who has a stick and the carrot, and he gets the the donkey or the burro to walk towards the carrot. That's how they get them to move, to walk down the track. Yeah. That's what God is, to me, is a carrot on a stick.
Yeah, but
it's a way for people, to me, to my viewpoint. For you,
but I don't think you should give out the viewpoint, just like I don't want to give out my viewpoint because I don't want to. Yeah, but I don't want to have people sway, because the thing is, it's up to anybody. Whatever their viewpoint is, that's up to them. That's not. I don't. Right, so I don't want to have people swayed one way or another.
No, just for me. So for me, when I hear someone say, "Well, it's I'll leave it up to this other power," right? And they give up and they have this imaginary thing. To me, they're giving up control over their own life and saying, "Well, it's so messed up and I don't have a solution, so I'm just to make myself feel better, I'm going to believe that this imaginary thing or theory." To me, it's a way of tricking yourself into, but it does do a lot of good for people, because that programming is like, well, here are the rules.
And that's the same thing for people who say, I want to leave it to the universe and let the universe decide. Exactly. It's the same thing, but the thing is, you can't say that, because sometimes letting go of things and just saying it's whatever happens, that's essentially what you're saying.
Right.
You're just saying it in different terminology. Ultimately, you're just saying this is not something I want to have to put my energy in. This isn't something I want to deal with.
Yeah.
And whatever happens with it is the way it unfolds. So I'm not going to put any more energy into it. So I'm going to put it up to God. Whatever God decides.
Yes. That's where you lose me.
I'm going to put it to Allah, and whatever Allah decides. Giving up is one thing. I'm going to put it to the universe and let the universe decide. Doing that, though, has truth to it, because yes, it can go one way and it can go another way, and it's going to go one or the other ways. Yeah. It's guaranteed to go one or the other ways. Yeah. It's just, again, it's to the point where you're like, I just don't want to put any more energy or effort into it. And then, because it's not important necessarily to you. Now, let's say, as an example, like a family member gets sick and is on their deathbed.
Yeah.
When you say, I'm going to let God take whatever course of action he needs to take, that's essentially you saying that I know this person is going to die. I hope they don't, because I'm going to miss them. But whatever happens, I'm going to be okay with it, and I have to be okay with it. So it's just a way for somebody to rationalize an unrationalizable aspect of life, and that is death, because we don't understand death. We don't know what it is. We don't know if there's an afterlife. There could be. There's reports say that there is a soul within a human body, and there's all these different things, whether there's scientific tests or not, or this or that, or whatever you want to, or even just a bunch of malarkey. It's just, we don't understand death at all, and we can't comprehend it, because here's the thing. Everybody says, oh, it's like going to sleep and not waking up. Well, I dream when I sleep. I still move, and I still may be aware when I'm sleeping. I might hear things when I'm sleeping. But when you're dead, it's just nothing. Like you don't exist.
Yeah.
And the human mind can't wrap itself around that.
Can't comprehend it at all.
And nobody can in any way, shape, or form. Couldn't. So being able to try to rationalize it by saying, I'm going to let God decide, or I'm going to let Allah decide, or I'm going to let the universe decide, or I'm going to let Buddha law decide, or whatever the hell it might be. Or I'm going to let Pokemon decide. I don't really know. Yeah. But you're essentially saying, I can't, it comes down to you saying, I can't comprehend this.
Right.
So whatever happens is going to happen. I have to deal with it as it comes. I'm not going to worry about it too much now or later, but when it happens, if it happens, I'm semi-prepared for it, because I understand now that person might not be here anymore. So there's different aspects of it, but it's essentially you saying whatever happens is going to happen, and it's not up to me. My energy can't change this fact, and it's just your mind succumbing to that.
Sure, for sure.
So like same thing with like getting a job. Mm-hmm. I'm going to let God decide.
Yeah, see, that's where I draw the line.
But the thing, but that's the no. Here's the thing. But the thing is, it's not in, you are not in control of getting that job, because the people who have, or the employers who have the job are the ones who are pulling the strings, and they're the ones who are going to figure out whether you're the correct fit or not.
So you had me on the deathbed. When you're trying to reconcile someone dying, and we don't know if there's a afterlife or what happens or even what consciousness or soul is, I get that saying, well, but they're going to heaven now.
No, but here's the thing.
It's in God's hands. But saying to me that
hold on.
It's in God's hands about a job, then you're just...
No, that's...
two different things to me.
No, it's not, because here's the thing. You want to know where it is? It's, again, that person saying, well, I can't stress out if I'm going to get this job or not, because ultimately it's not my decision if I'm good enough to get the position.
Then I say I'm not going to worry about
aware. This. But the thing is, people are using that as a rational way.
Oh, for sure.
And so we're to say, I'm going to put my trust in God, or I'm going to,
and that's
whatever God
stick to me.
But here's the thing: it doesn't matter how you label it. So if you want to label it as God, if you want to label it as universe, if you want to label it as Allah, if you want to label it as Buddha, if you want to label it as tribune or energy drink or sugar or whatever the hell you want to label it, it doesn't really matter, because ultimately it's just the person realizing that there's no more energy to put forth into that, because it's an external thing that you are not in control of. So, even the fact with that person dying, you're not in control of the fact that they could die, or that they're on their deathbed. Maybe they're going to get better. Maybe they pull through. Maybe something happens that could be defined as miraculous by the doctors, and you could say, oh, no, that was God. But that's just it's just something that's reaffirming what you think, because, or something that you put into the energy by saying, oh, I'm just going to let God decide. But yet, same thing with going for a job and saying, oh, well, whatever God says, because you think that ultimately the master plan is just your life. So God's master plan is really just your life. It's just the bringing in of the external factors that you don't have control of and letting them go. So like with the job situation, when you say, I'm going to let God decide, that just means you're probably thinking, oh, well, I don't know if I'm going to get this job. There's other strong applicants. This is a job that I really want, but I don't want to get myself upset if I don't get the job. So, if I don't get the job, then down the road, something will work out where I can. I'm not, first of all, it's not a way to give up and to say, oh, God's going to decide my life for me, and fate is going to, I can just sit around and coast, and life's going to just give me lemons, and I'm going to squeeze them because God's going to have my back.
Well, that's what the belief is.
That's not the belief at all.
That's what a lot of people believe.
No, the belief is you still have to do the work. You still have to do the thing.
Of course, in reality.
But you only you're paying attention to the only things you can control. That's what and then when you're saying, oh, I give it on to something else, that's just you saying, I don't have control of that situation. That's ultimately what it comes back to.
For sure.
And
so then why wouldn't you just say, well, I don't have control of this, and it's out of my control. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm not going to worry about it.
Because it's the rationalization behind it for if it doesn't work out in your favor.
Exactly.
So if it doesn't work out in your favor, then you got to say, oh, well, that wasn't meant to be. And now I have to move to the next thing, whether that might be.
And then you say, "Did you see what God did to me?"
Well, that's the problem where it then lies. But what I'm saying is when people say, "Oh, I'm giving it to God," or "I'm giving it to Allah," or "I'm giving it to the universe," or "I'm giving it to this or that or whatever," or "I'm giving it to Lake Erie."
Yeah. Well, that's my problem.
I give it to Lake Erie every morning, every afternoon, and every evening.
I get why they're doing it. I get why they're doing it, but you can just say, you know what? It's out of my control, and I'm not going to worry about this. You don't have to say, "Well, I'm leaving it."
Yeah, but that's the whole thing. It's the uncertainty behind it. So it's that we're not thinking in necessarily the most rational way.
Well, of course, and that's fine for people. I have no problem with that. Where my problem is, I believe in the flying spaghetti monster, and because I believe in the flying spaghetti monster, I'm going to put it all over the schools.
That's the problem. I mean, that's the problem. That's my problem. Being projecting and projecting what you want because you think you're right. Yeah. That just shows you're a jackass. Yeah. And you're not humble. If you're humble, you would take other people's opinions and thoughts. Yeah. And here's the thing, like I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people, when they have their thoughts, they're very rigid. Mm-hmm. They're like, this is what I think, this is right, this is wrong, but yet you could say, well, I'm sorry, but that's actually not true. Right. And you could prove it to them, but they're going to double down on that because because
they thought it's
an ego strike.
Sure.
It's a strike to your ego. But if you can humble up and if you can control your ego to the point where you can be like, okay, I don't know everything. I have ideas and thoughts and opinions on this, but there's no factual information to back it up. So I'm going to stay open-minded to that. And if somebody else has an opposing viewpoint, I'll listen to that. And okay, so the easiest thing to talk about is as an example is pro-Trump or anti-Trump, like without getting into any specifics because I don't really want to waste time on that crap.
Well, I don't know anything about it.
But no, I mean I'm just making an overlay. Yeah. Whether you're one or the other, it doesn't matter. It's just that like when you look at it, you know, these people this side is very opposing to this side, and like. It's on one little aspect. It's on Trump. And it's like, well, who cares? How does it really affect you?
Yeah, that's what people don't get.
Like, you want to know where, in true government, where does government actually affect you? Mm-hmm. In your local area. Local government elections, which are the least turned out, are the most influential in your personal life.
Yeah.
What happens then on the next level is state.
Yep.
And then what happens after that is the federal or the national government.
Which affects you very little.
So what Trump is doing in office really doesn't affect anybody too much. Mm-hmm. How much has your life changed from him being in office to not? Yeah. Unless you're part of these different groups and these different factions. Yeah. But again, that's not the point. What we should be looking at is saying, okay, well, what do you like? You like art? Well, I like art. Yeah. Let's focus on what we like. Let's focus on what we can do, and let's focus on how we can make things better.
Speaking of art, so when I had to take my art class, which I was all excited because I thought that I was going to learn either how paintings were painted or, the composition, or I was going to learn about the artist. So the first day that I go, and I'm again public school, I go and I sit in the class, and I was even more excited because I'm Italian, contrary to popular belief out there. I'm Italian, and we were starting the class off in Italy. We're going to be starting looking at artworks in Italy, and I was all excited. Oh, this is going to be great. But then it was very focused on Jesus. So my first thought is that how can you teach a public class when and it's covertly like it wasn't pushing a religious agenda, but you can't, and they're not straight out saying, well, you should believe in this person and this thing and this theology.
Okay, well, when the Jews were in the area and when in Jesus's time in 2000-ish years ago, who was the main controller of that area?
Of where? What do you mean?
Who was the controller?
But my whole thing is when I'm learning about artwork.
But that's the thing. Who am I saying?
No,
answer the question. Who was the main controller of the Jews during Jesus' time?
I don't know. I don't.
It was the Romans.
Okay.
So the Romans controlled all of this area.
Uh-huh.
So the Romans were actually they had a belief system that was much like the Greeks, where they had, gods that, that you had like, it wasn't Zeus, like you had Jupiter, which was like Zeus. You had these different gods, but it's because the Greeks were overtaken by the Romans from, if I'm right, I can't remember exactly because I'm going back in history to points where I was probably falling asleep at. But the Romans still had this, but they had this massive outstretch. So they had part of the Ottoman Empire, which was Muslim controlled, which was in many parts of northern Africa, near the Sahara Desert and all that. Then they also controlled much of Eastern and Western Europe, and essentially all around the Mediterranean was Roman occupied. And so 2,000 years ago, you had this little group of Jews who then had to, go back to their hometown and have this census because Jews did not believe the same thing that Romans did. Romans believed in, again, in many different gods. They believed in like the god of sun, the god of thunder, the god of this and that. And they believed in a lot of different things. But then there was this person called Jesus who was born, and you have this movement after Jesus was dead, and this is how Christianity that then started going around where they were doing it in secret. So secretively, because it was going around the Roman Empire, because that was, again, the empire that was controlling this part of the world. And then what happened was you had the Roman emperor, I think it was Emperor Constantine, on his deathbed, essentially sign over the empire into Christianity. So overnight, essentially, it became a Christian territory. And so one of the big things is they would remove all of the artwork that depicted the old style, or it would be transformed into what it would be today. So the main person who created Christianity into what it is today is the influence of Constantine. I'm right, or saying Constantine, right?
Don't ask me.
Hold on.
Again,
I got to look this up.
I don't know much about history, but I was excited to learn about art.
No, I know, and I'm going to get to that in a second, because it's going to... I want to say it's Constantine.
Mm-hmm.
Constantine. Hold on. No, I don't want to know about Keanu Reeves. I don't need that. I'm talking about the real Constantine. Okay, yes, so it was Constantine. So Constantine 1 was the one who did that, and it was on his deathbed.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially the reason why is because they didn't have an afterlife. And he was dying, and
of course,
they had the afterlife belief of heaven. So it was his way of like going into heaven. Don't quote me on that, but I heard that through the grapevine.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, then essentially it transitioned the entire area. So all of the artwork, you had all of these amazing artists and people that were in this area throughout all of this time. So all of that artwork either had to be destroyed or transformed or be able to be brought into the new religion some way, somehow. So there was a lot of influence that way. But the thing is, when it comes to like Michelangelo, when he was doing the Sistine Chapel, their influence and where they tapped, they said, it was this huge religion because they didn't know anything around the world around them. They just, every town you had a church in it. So you went to church, you learned about what was going on within the religion itself. Same thing if you were a Muslim and you were in the Ottoman Empire, you had these synagogues, or not synagogues, I'm sorry, the what is their places of worship? Their temples called
what temples?
Muslim temples.
Mosques,
yeah. So you had mosques all over in every city as well, too, because, again, religion was a very important aspect of life because it explained all of the world around them because they didn't have the technology and the knowledge as what we have today. They had a whole different life. So when you have Michelangelo or you have all of these other artists, they're tapping into religion as their main aspect. So when you see, all this Roman artwork and all the things, it's because religion was such an instilled part of them for so long and they didn't have the knowledge or the know-how for the world around them. So today's day and age, somebody could create artwork that could be anything. You don't really know. I mean, like the flag that I did, why did I do that flag? Well, one, I saw it on a YouTube video, somebody did that, and I said, I could do that too. I wanted to do my own version of it. But we live in America.
Yeah.
So it's a tribute to the fact of the country that we live in. It's if you like the country or not, we still have that pride of being an American. So you make the flag. The same thing with getting the falls. We're local to Niagara Falls,
of course.
So it's one of the great staples that we have that we're tied to because we're in the area. And you go see the falls and you just stand there and it's all power and you're just like, wow.
Yeah.
And you just feel everything. So like that's the same thing. Everybody's influenced by something. And because religion was in all aspects of your life, because religion wasn't go to church, pray to God, blah, 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 this, that. No, religion was actually life encompassing. So like if you know the 10 Commandments, that's the rules of life. Like that's like don't cheat on your spouse, don't kill, don't be rude, honor your parents, honor like the elders, listen, fall in line, do those. So it's a way of life. Same thing with Muslims. The Muslim religion is a way of life. Christian religion is a way of life. So it was all encompassing. So when you talk about Italy, it was the primary residence of where Rome was, which was the Roman Empire. So when you had everything switch over, that's where the Vatican is too. So that's where the prime central aspect of Christianity actually is in Italy itself. So you go there, you're going to have this massive collection of artwork and data and everything that's tied to religion in that aspect because that's what it is. But if you go to, somewhere, say in Japan, where like, let's say with Buddha, you're going to see a lot of Buddha-inspired artwork. If you go to India, where it's Hindu, you're going to see all Hindu-inspired artwork.
Yeah.
So that's the big thing. It doesn't matter if what religion it is in the area. It's the whole history of it. So that's the whole thing. Like their history is Christianity. Before that, it was the Romans had their belief system in multi-gods, but then they transitioned with Constantine and wiped all that out. So that's why you don't see anything really from before that unless it was transitioned into the current religion of Christianity. So no matter what you saw, you would see that. So and then also like artworks too. Like what kind of artworks would you want to could see or envision that you would think would be in this part of the world?
So I was really excited. I was going to take an art history course, and I thought that I was either going to learn about how paintings are made or, a plethora of different artists that were famous. Maybe it's Salvador Dali. I would love to learn about Salvador Dali or Picasso, or I think you mentioned Michelangelo. That would be excellent. So, and then the very first day we were going to be starting in Italy. Oh, I'm Italian. Let's learn about some Italian art. And then came out the Jesus. So the very first day when we're learning about Jesus's crown and what the symbolization of Jesus's crown is, and then we're learning about the resurrection of Jesus, and then I'm like, okay, and then the second class, and then more Jesus and learning about the Jesus, and then here's a different painting of Jesus, and this shows a different painting of Jesus coming to resurrection, like, okay, and then we move more through Italy, and then a little bit over Jesus over here, and then there's some Jesus over here.
Yeah, but
and
if
you look at
because
Jesus,
it's the Mecca of the Christianity faith.
Exactly. You made my point for me. So if you are a blank slate and you are teaching an art history course and you can teach anything that you want, you can teach about anything that you want to.
But did they go to other areas besides Italy?
Well, then we went to, it progressed through Europe until we got to some some Dutch paintings of Jesus.
Europe again is primarily Christian.
Well, yeah. So okay. So it was Jesus here and Jesus there.
Did you go into China? Did you go into Japan? Did you go into
exactly
Africa?
My point. Thank you very much for making my point.
Would you like to know the reason why?
Because that person, the art teacher, was a very, very stout Christian woman who wanted to project her Christian values onto the art class and completely lost sight of it. That's exactly what it was.
But there's more. There's a little bit more to it. And
there's no more to it. I want to only show pictures of Jesus, and I'm going to show all the little different pictures of Jesus, the Jesus resurrection, and the Jesus this. Never mentioning any part of any kind of art history except for the history of the Jesus between this tiny little Renaissance era of Italian and some other paintings. So I, as a student, if I came from, especially from a different religion, because there are people at my school who were from all over the world, if I was a person who came to learn and took an art history class to learn about art, I would be extremely upset if I was a different religion and I was subjected to an entire semester of learning about Jesus here, Jesus there, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus.
Let's talk about
I was.
Hold on. Let's take out art for a second. Let's go to history. What do you remember in history about the Ottoman Empire or the Muslim faith or Muslim controlled territories at all? What do you remember in history about it?
Okay, well, we're not talking about a religion class. We're talking about art.
I'm actually asking. I changed the subject and said, let's talk about history right now because this is going to be the exact reason why.
I didn't take a history class. I took an art class.
You had to take history in high school and in grade school.
Well, I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the art class that I took.
And I said, I want to bring up another point. I'm asking you.
I don't know anything about history.
I'm asking, but in history, what do you remember hearing about in the Ottoman Empire?
I don't know. I don't even know what that is.
Okay, exactly. What do you remember about the Chinese Empire?
Like the Ming Dynasty?
Different dynasties besides the Ming Dynasty.
Well, if you want to talk about artwork, I know they got nice art.
I'm not talking about artwork. I'm asking about the history. No, okay, what about the history? I don't know a lot about history. What about the history of Hinduism or... not necessarily, I'm sorry, I don't want to say Hinduism, but India.
Yeah. Well, I know about axons and dendrites. You want to talk about them?
Okay.
All right.
You want to know why you remember those things? Because that was, in it. And do you remember about the European, or do you remember about the Middle Ages and the Dark Ages and then the Renaissance and... Then do you remember about U.S. history when the colonies started and the 13 colonies and Manifest Destiny and the signing of the Declaration of Independence?
No, not much.
Do you remember that? Yeah.
No, because I didn't pay much attention to history. I told you I regretted not paying attention to history.
See, that's the thing. History is designed by the winners or the people trying to be in charge. So if you go to U.S. or if you go to history in school here It's vastly different from if you go to history class in India, or if you go to history class in the Sudan, or if you go to history in different parts of the world. It's vastly different because the area that wins, their history goes along, while the area that dies gets lost. So again, our country was founded by essentially the British, and there was some Spanish and French, but primarily Western European. And that's what was in the country, or in this country, and that's kind of how it started. That's where its principles started. But you're following the same history that went back through their time, which then went back, then into the Roman time, which went into the Egypt. You could go all the way back to the Egyptians, and then you start going before that, they're going to say, oh, well, it was hunter and gatherers, because they thought that Egypt was the great civilization of the lost times, or of the last times. But now they're starting to come out and say, oh, well, that's kind of wrong, because there's all these buildings and stuff that we're finding in parts of Central America, and then in the Amazon, and then there's all these different parts like Göbekli Tepe, which is like 13 or what was it, 10 to 12,000 years old when it was reburied. So before that, it could have been much older. But they're realizing that what the history you're taught in school is an agenda to make you feel more national pride, and to, control your thinking about other areas of the world, where the narrative is also magnified beyond that history when it comes to what's going on in current events around the world that you could actually watch on the news. And if you watched something on a conflict in part of the world that we don't know much about, but you actually then watch that same conflict coverage on another news station in another part of the world, you're going to see a whole different story. And that's the whole thing. It's this whole narrative that's put together to create nationalism and pride for your country, and who was the winner in that versus who was the loser. So, if you had changes of who won and lost in history, the history would be much different than it would be today.
Well, that's all great points.
That's the same thing when it comes to art history, because you're still doing the history of what you learn, which is still a Judeo-Christian based country, which is this U.S., which is then also tied to Western Europe, which was inspired by after the Renaissance, which was then inspired through the Dark Ages, which went to the Roman Empire, and before the downfall of the Roman Empire, which went through that great empire. Then you had the smaller empires, and you really take it back further and further and further.
Well, I get what you're saying, but what does that have to do with my art teacher teaching more religion than art history?
Well, because a lot of art in history is religious based.
Yeah, of course.
A lot of art.
So
that's, if you're going to learn history, religional aspects are going to be in it.
Well, how come okay. So you're a teacher.
Now 100% of it, no, because not everything's going to be inspired by art, but the vast majority of things will be inspired by that, except for once you start getting into the Renaissance and have that change there, where it starts questioning things and talking about science and talking about different beliefs, then you start getting a different type of
So if you're teaching
artwork.
Art history, then how come I didn't hear about any artwork in the Ming Dynasty, or I didn't hear any artwork from the Buddhism, or I didn't hear any artwork from Hindu?
That's because,
or even more importantly, who are the most famous artists that you know?
But again, that's the agenda. But most of the artists, again, Picasso, Michelangelo, Leonardo DiCaprio. These are, again, people who are based in Europe. These are people who are based.
Sure, that's a select few, but there's a million other great
there's
artists.
So many more.
Yeah, how come I didn't learn about them? How come it was only? In fact, I didn't even hear any of those names you just mentioned.
Again, history is based still where art history is tied in with regular history that you learn. If it was a true history, like maybe a global history, art history, then yes, it should have definitely taken into account Japanese art, Chinese art, Indian
see what was
art,
happening.
All
is
these
exactly what
things.
happened with this guy who puts "In God We Trust" on every school in the wall. Is that I believe in this personal belief, and I'm going to teach you only about my personal beliefs, and you have to be along with the ride with my personal beliefs, which is not. You're losing complete track of what your goal is, especially as a teacher. As a teacher, when I'm taking an art history class, I should learn about either art or history, not just about Jesus. So I agree with you where, yes, there's been a lot of artwork that's influenced by different religious beliefs over the years, but you're starting with a blank slate and nobody's telling you that you have to teach this or you have to teach that. And you're focusing on what your personal beliefs are to projecting those beliefs onto college kids, especially when we're supposed to be a melting pot in our country and we're supposed to have freedom of religion. Well, either teach about all religions or don't teach me anything about religions and just teach me what you're supposed to be teaching me, which is art. Teach me about art. I like art. I want to know about art. Teach me about art or the history of art. I don't want to know the history of Jesus. If I wanted to know the history of Jesus, I would have went to church. But that's exactly the thing. This is the same thing with this guy putting the "In God We Trust" on, making it mandatory to have it in schools. Is my art teacher lost track of that she's supposed to be teaching art or history or art history and decided that she wanted to just focus her beliefs on learning all about Jesus because everyone needs Jesus in their lives.
It's her problem, or I mean, the way that was designed wrong.
Yeah.
But also the thing, though, like I was saying, is that if it's art history, you're going to learn, or it's going to be tied to the history that you know. So it's not if it was. I mean, for me, I don't think history is taught well in any way. In fact, I think history fails all over the world.
Well, it does because you made a good point where whoever wins gets to make the history.
And that's the whole thing.
But you can't make up a history of a painting. No, it's already painted.
But what we actually need to know is, but it's the influence. And the influence
What about the Mona Lisa? How come I didn't learn about that? That's art history, right?
Yeah, well,
okay.
But
what about Andy Warhol? Again, he's in history. I didn't learn about him.
Listen,
Salvador Dali didn't learn about that.
Listen, that's not what I'm talking about.
Ross.
What I am talking, he's not history. He is now. But what I'm talking about, no, I think it's all bullshit to begin with.
Oh, that's a great point.
I think history itself is completely flawed because you know what you learned in high school or school in general, you find out to be mostly wrong or made up down the road at some point when you're watching, these different things on, the History Channel or Discovery Channel or whatever channel it might be. You realize that what you were taught isn't necessarily true. And, one of the prime examples was Christopher Columbus founded America. No, he didn't. What about the millions of people who are already here? They founded America long before Christopher Columbus did. And then he was hailed as this hero when in fact he wasn't. They brought disease and they brought all these things over that wiped out a vast majority of people. So he was a much bigger barbarian than most people give him credit for. But through history, Christopher Columbus was regarded as this amazing person because, hey, because everybody thought the world was flat, when in fact, no. At this time, everybody thought the world was round, or at least a vast majority thought the world was round. So no, history is bullshit for the most part. If we could actually come together for a concise, real, accurate piece of history, like, this person lived and died these dates. Like, that's an accurate representation. But to say, Egypt was the first great empire of the world and it built all of this great things, and we really don't know, we still don't know much about it. Well, that could change everything if you actually started uncovering different things. And like the new findings with like Göbekli Tepe, if you find those, then what else is wrong? Like, were we much more advanced 13,000 years ago than we give ourselves credit? Were we actually truly advanced to a point where, you know, we had all of this different stuff and it just got wiped out because, hey, guess what? The world will take back over. It will take onto itself what it gave. So, I mean, everything can wipe away in an instant, you know.
For sure.
A good 100 years and go by, and much of what you see today could be back into nature and completely taken over.
It probably is, because apparently if we don't do something, global warming is going to kill all humans eventually. Probably in 1,000 years.
You want to hear what a really funny thing is? The other day I saw this article as I was scrolling through the Book of Faces, and come up and it says climate change at its highest, or at its most change in the last 2,000 years.
Yeah, I just read that.
I'm like, dude, what about the 4.6 other billion years that the Earth has been around?
Well, they can't take as accurate readings. I think the article was recorded temperatures. But I got a good one for you. I watch these people who are driving across.
But that's the thing is, though, like the how much humans are changing climate is still unknowable. Like, we just don't know, because first of all, we haven't been we started recording our data in temperature like 150 years ago. It's very relatively new. And the only thing we do is look at core samples. So, you know, core samples in ice and different things. So we can actually see certain things with like the layers of ice and all that going back and back for so much. But even that could be flawed.
Yeah.
Like, we don't necessarily, so we don't know. I mean, the only thing that we do know is that the Earth was hotter and the Earth was colder.
Yeah.
We don't know what influence we've actually had.
Well, what it is they're measuring the time frame that those fluctuations took place.
No, I know, I get that.
Heating up like exponentially faster.
No, I get that. I'm not denying that. I'm just saying we don't really know what influence we're having in the grand scheme of things. We could have a very negligible influence, and it's just something that is happening because maybe it just, maybe where we are in the universe. Maybe there's
I think they're pretty sure it's all the fossil fuels we're burning. I think that's what it is.
But that's the thing. We don't know.
Well, and you're not 90. And they can't put it 100% like.
No. Hold on. I'm just trying to say something. Like, we don't know that down the road a supernova went off and the light hit us a long time ago, but now the a temperature inflection could happen. We don't know if that can actually happen, because yes, it could. You know, you could have a supernova light years away that can wipe, if it's directly aimed at you, it can wipe life out completely.
Pretty scary.
So, and that's really scary, because you don't know it's coming.
No.
But, and that's the whole thing. Like, we don't necessarily know what the actual sphere of influence is, because we only know a small portion. Yes, there's some sort of human help with global warming. But again, is it something that because we don't know what's going to come either. Is the world going to correct itself and say, oh, wait, well, here's this tipping point? Or maybe that supernova. I mean, we just don't know. We don't know the realm of possibilities.
Well,
There's so many variables out there
that
are still uncountable. And yes, it's unlikely, but so is a meteor that hit 12,000 or 11,800 years ago and stopped the ice age, or receded the ice age and brought it into today's. And so that's what they're talking about. And then the same thing with what was it? During the Dark Ages, they say that there was temperature in like a real mini glacier ice age type issue. So, and that's what led to the Dark Ages. that they think that that's what happened. So I mean, there's all of these variables that we just don't know yet. So we can't even say definitively at all. Like even with we can only say we have a 99% idea of what the current information we have, but what if new information comes to light and then the 99% certainty goes to 0.01%, you know? It can change, it can influence that because there's just so many variables that even there's a lot of unknown variables.
For sure. Well, gamma ray burst, wiping out the Earth, can't control that. Asteroid, can't control that.
Did you hear about that asteroid that flew by that's a city killer? And they had no freaking idea?
Yeah.
I saw that the other day and I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, what if that thing like just...
So here's the thing though.
Boom.
Now, I love science, but I am not a scientist and I'm not in the Arctic measuring, taking core samples and doing data. But there are a lot of scientists out there who actually do that. That's their job. They're trying to measure global warming. And they've been saying for years and years and years that global warming is real and it is happening. And I trust data. So when they're coming back with data that proves it to me, clearly you can't deny data. That's data. That's what science is. But here's the problem. Will the Earth self-correct? Of course it will. It's just going to wipe humans off the planet. That problem is solved. That's all that's going to happen. People are like, oh, it's it now.
It always brings me back to...
life on Earth is
it always brings me back to the Matrix when Morpheus and Agent Smith are talking when they capture Morpheus. And he's like, I tried to classify your species.
Yeah.
And the closest thing I could come up with is a virus.
Yeah, for sure.
A plague.
Well, they say the same thing in The Kingsman. Planet. Did you see the movie The Kingsman?
I haven't, but I've heard that movie. Is it on Prime?
I'll have to look, but you should watch it.
I'm going to look right now to see if it's on Prime, because if it is, I can watch it.
What is interesting,
but if it's not, I can't.
The local rivers were crazy this year. I went to the gorge to go hiking.
We had a lot of water.
Falls Gorge, yeah, and it was.
We had a lot of. We had so much rain though.
Yeah, but it was
up until. Flooded. Well, normally it's April showers bring May flowers, right? But we had rain all of May and into part of June, so all that runoff is still going.
That's crazy.
Which is crazy.
So everywhere I went, the water was like 10... the Kingsman. The water is like ridiculously high. But then I watch these people who are traveling the country or traveling foreign lands in a van. These two couples that go in a van. And I think they were in Portugal. I can't remember where they were. I'd have to look it up. But they went to this mountaintop where there's like a rainbow looking like dirt because, and only in the past 7 years nobody could see these like.
Is it Kingsman the Secret Service or Kingsman the Golden Circle?
I think the Golden Circle is the second one.
Okay, so there is two.
Yeah.
No, they're not on Prime.
Damn, that's a bummer. What are they on?
I don't know.
Nothing?
I mean, I can get it on Prime, but I'd have to pay money for it, and I don't want to.
Yeah, nobody does that. Who pays for movies on Prime? I want to know.
I don't know. I mean, if you really want it, like I'll get, I'll buy on Amazon. I'll buy not Infinity War, Endgame when it comes out on DVD.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean. The MCU is probably the only thing I'll actually buy.
You want it?
I'll buy the MCU.
Stomach punched over and over again.
No, I'll buy the MCU like phase 1, 2, and 3 because I really like those movies. I like the do
you rent it or do you get to keep it?
No, you can rent them or you can buy it.
What are you gonna do?
I'll buy the DVD.
Oh, okay. See, yeah, you purchase it.
I'll actually buy the Blu-ray.
It's gonna run it. Okay, good.
But I like how to me, I really appreciate how well things are written. So like, I'll watch something quite a few times, and I can actually find the fallacies in it and the issues that a lot of movies try to avoid, I guess, but you can still find them. Like you can find the holes in it. And I don't know. I just find them, and I'm like, oh well, that's not there. There's a discrepancy later that goes against what you're doing right now, and like it just I can find those in movies, and then the vastness of how many movies that it encompasses in the Marvel universe when you're talking about Iron Man and Thor and Avengers and all those movies. It's 22 or 23 movies or whatever it is. And now they're going into phase 4. So at Endgame, like from Captain America to Endgame, they literally teased in the movies, in the first few movies, how Endgame was going to go. And they went back into it and all over the place. So there's all these different movies, and it's so intricate. But the crazy thing was that they were planning Endgame way back when, and they've literally, I mean, it was like 10 years worth that they had to keep their mouths shut because it was all leading up to that. So it was like they actually were really paying attention to this. So to me, those movies are probably the best well-written movies out there. And I just want to start finding any little holes because now that picture is complete.
Well, when you get Endgame, will you call me up to watch it? Because there was something in that I can't remember where I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. It was something with Pepper Potts. And I was like, what? I don't understand. Are they in the past or are they in the future right now? Or why is she in the past or the future? There was something. I don't know if I could take watching that movie again. But
wait, I'm sorry. What part?
I don't remember. That's why I have to watch it. So when you get it, call me up and I'll we'll have popcorn. Also, I listened to that song that you sent me. What was it? The guy song?
Oh, yeah.
I literally do none of those things, but it's a funny song.
Oh, it's hilarious. I mean, it was hilarious.
It's a good song.
It was called It's a Guy Thing. Hold on, I got to find it.
Yeah.
I sent it to you.
It's a Guy Thing by King Khan.
Yes.
Yeah, which is a hilarious song. I was like, I literally do none of these things, but it's a very funny song.
We can't play it because when this actually does make it on YouTube, we would get a copyright strike. Yeah. But no, it was absolutely hilarious.
Go listen to It's a Guy Thing by King Khan. It's pretty funny. And if you want, you can spend 99 cents on Amazon to buy it. That's like, who's spending 99 cents? Would you?
Or you could just go on YouTube and play it when you want and stream at will.
Yeah,
you might have to listen to an ad or two, but no big deal.
Fair trade-off. Here's the thing with YouTube. I don't have a problem with the 3-second skippable ad. It comes on. Is it 5 seconds now? Mm-hmm. Okay, whoop-de-doo. It's 5 seconds of my life.
It's been 5 seconds for a long time.
That's a great model. And I hope that greed does not take over and they never change that model because I don't mind it. It's okay. I'll watch that 5-second clip to watch something. It's great.
Okay. Well, being that I'm on YouTube and I understand the AdSense of it. Yeah. So how it currently works is it's a CPM, which is a cost per impression essentially. And it's over 1,000 impressions. So let's say it's a $10 CPM, which means for every 1,000 views your video gets, or videos, you get essentially $10. 55% of it goes to the content creator, and 45% goes to YouTube. Or, well, technically it's Google, because it's Google AdSense that does it. And that can change. I believe that can change depending on... But it's essentially 55% goes to the content creator and 45% goes to Google, which owns YouTube. Now, that makes sense, and I'm okay with that. I understand because, first of all the videos I put up on YouTube, I don't house them. Mm-hmm. My bandwidth, my computer isn't using the internet's bandwidth to play that. Like, I don't have a server. Yeah. I upload it to YouTube server for sure. And their data centers. Yep. And there's so much data that's just being inputted.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And because they had Adpocalypse a 2 years ago now, where you have to have at least 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time, which now it's becoming a little bit more difficult for content creators to kind of get started on the platform because one, there's so many people that are on there. Yeah. And how do you differentiate between other people?
Yeah.
There are certain things you can do, yes. And I'm lucky enough to have reached that milestone in a very quick time, where I was able to get monetization. But I'm happy with the fact that I control the ads. So if I don't want to show ads on mine, I can turn off ads on mine. I can turn it on. I can put on where the ads can go. So if it's over a 10-minute video, I can put multiple ads in. And based on length, there's more ads that can play. So if it's like a few minutes long, you're probably going to get a advertisement at the beginning or maybe at the end. You won't get it in between, but you might get it in the middle, in the beginning or the end of that video. Then you go to the next one, same thing. But if it's like a 3-hour long podcast, like watching Joe Rogan or watching us maybe, you can start seeing there's multiple breaks where you can get more, where there's more commercials because of that time. So that space, it makes sense because, again, a 3-hour video is a lot different from a 10-minute video in terms of size capacity. So when it goes up onto YouTube and it goes into one of their server warehouses, then again, it's going to take up a lot more space versus being this little, these little files. So yeah, it makes sense that they have to do that to keep the content free, to keep it going. And then there's, you can get into the aspects of making money directly from viewership from people themselves, like super chats and all that stuff, which is pretty cool. And that goes to the content creator itself. But when you're talking about the ad revenue, so ads are going to change a little bit. And this is just, I don't think it's agreed in any way, shape, or form. I think it's, they have such a vast growing network of videos where you store it and how you store it, and then how it reaches people, meaning more and more advertisers are seeing it as as it being such an ability to advertise on that platform. I think you're going to see maybe a few, like a skippable 2 commercials, which you're starting to see at the beginning.
No, uncalled for.
No, but it'll say 1 of 2, but it'll still say 5 seconds.
No, that's 10 seconds then.
No.
Instead of the 5 seconds that I could skip.
No, that's not it. It's still 5 seconds. You can still
for each one though,
no,
right?
That's
okay.
not.
All right.
Until you can't jump.
Well, that's how I thought it was working, because there's a huge hubbub on the internet about it.
No, some are non-skippable. Some are. So some might be like 13-second long. That's non-skippable.
No.
Some are 5-second long. But again, it's mostly going to the content creator. So 55% is going to the content creator, which is a good thing, because they're the people who are making the videos. They're the people who are doing the work. They're editing. They're uploading. So it's primarily going to them. But then YouTube still does need a cut, because what they end up needing to do is they need to be able to build these warehouses and these storage centers for all of this data and create it the way it is. So because if they weren't collecting any money, they wouldn't be able to build these warehouses, and then there'd be this blockage of new content going up there.
Yeah.
But again, it's up to the content creator. So if I didn't want to have my videos playing on YouTube with ads, I can shut it off. I have that ability to.
That's good.
So, but the question is, do I want to? And my answer is no. I want ads on there, because if I'm not able to collect ad revenue, as one aspect of, it takes a lot of time. For my channel, I go out and I drive, which, yes, I get money from that, but yes, I go out and drive. So I have to spend my time doing that. Then I have to spend time, coming up with the idea of the video. Then I have to actually shoot the video. I have to edit the video. I have to upload the video. I have to tag it. There's all this back end that goes into doing a video that could be, for some people, it could be one take up and done, which could be very little amount of money and time and resources. But then there's some people who spend hours and hours on their just one video, and if it doesn't do well, you know, they can be taking a loss when they're essentially content creators like myself and many others enjoy doing the content. That's what we're doing right now. We're creating content by talking back and forth with each other and a little bit of video, so people can see us if they're watching on YouTube. But it's become such a unique way of connecting with people, and everybody can have a voice. So everybody can say something or do something or share something or have a passion and do it. Like, I enjoy helping other drivers out there. I also don't just stick to the bad of things. I'll also post what videos or what rides are good and what are fun, because that's that's the bulk majority. 99% of the rides is pretty good, or nothing actually happens at all. And then there's I wouldn't say 99. I'd say about 90%, and then 10% is the memorable rides where it's like either really funny, really crazy, or holy shit, this is fucked up. But I would say maybe 999 rides out of 1,000 is perfectly good. Some of them just might get annoying, and one out of 1,000 is a hell. And that's what I want to do. And I've actually gotten, over the last few weeks, a lot of people are commenting saying, you know, I really like the way you're doing. Like, I really like your content. I really like the channel. I'm like, people are, when I'm doing live streams, people super chat just because they're like, dude, I really like the channel. Thank you. And it's just like, it's nice because it kind of goes full circle. So I enjoy helping other people, because like, whoever's a driver, you know, they're trying to hustle out there too. So I know what it's like when you're out there hustling and trying to get rides, or you're stuck there. You know, if you're out in 20, 30 minutes go by without a ride, and you're like, why the hell am I out? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, there's this event going on. I'm going to go right there. And then all of a sudden the rest of the night it's busy. Or, you know, you have this really good interaction with somebody who really might need something, like a ride, and you're more than, but they're very appreciative of it, and you're appreciative that you're able to help them as well too. So it's, again, just in that aspect, it's full circle. But then, in this way, I'm able to go out there and I'm able to talk to people and share my experiences and help people and explain it and give different perspectives and ideas. So anybody who's coming on, whether they're new, old, or even passengers, or just people in general who watch, which I have a whole plethora of people who watch, even people who don't drive or even use Uber and Lyft, they just like the channel. And
what's the name of your channel?
Real Rideshare Stories.
Right,
but it's just this cool ecosystem that's created. And so for content creation, it's nice because there is so much that can go into it. Some of my videos could be, 5, 6, 7 hours worth of things. And I try to put something out every day. And I started doing live streams to add an extra, to add a little bit extra, but also to take a little off my plate, because live streams is pre-production, post-production, and event happening all at once. So it really cuts down on time, which is really nice that way. But then it goes, when you're actually doing the real videos, and the real videos tend to get much more views, but you're putting a little bit more into it. And if you go back and look at my old videos, like my first few, and then you go and look at the ones which are, let's say, maybe 2 months ago, you'll see a huge difference. You'll see a massive difference just in the way everything was done. And then you go from about 2 months ago to the videos that I'm doing now, and you'll even see a difference now, because now I'm adding different things. So I'm adding different editing. I'm adding different transitions and overlays and B-roll and all this stuff, because it's making it, I'm stepping up my game a little bit, because I want to produce better content for the end user. I want to get good information. A lot of the times information is boring. You know, you go to school and you're sitting there and you're just like, oh my God, is this teacher going to shut the fuck up?
Well, it depends on what it was.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I get that. But like when if I'm presenting information that can be on the boring side, but it's information that you really need to know, you can break it up with fun little stuff inside, and you can change, you know, like you can do different things. So I'm learning all that. And I have zero background when it comes to editing videos or editing or even like videography or audio. I don't have any background in that. It's just stuff I've learned and trial and error. And then once I get that down, I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm going to tweak it a little bit and then add and transition. And so I can add these things in. But to do that, it takes time then to learn. So like if I'm bringing in graphics or something and creating that can take a lot of time. And even just learning how to do it takes more time. So, I mean, being able to play ads and get money for that, that's a good thing.
Well, I'm all for that.
And you should, I mean, honestly, as a person who ingests the media content, you should be, I feel that you should enjoy the fact that you know that YouTube pays out 55% to its content creator because they're the ones who are making the content. They're the ones who are getting it. And then the understanding that the reason why they're still getting 45% is because they need to build these massive warehouses. They need to build all of these storage centers, and then they need to have all these storage centers running, which costs a lot of money in electricity, costs some money in a lot of money in building, supervising, overseeing all of these things.
The amount of money that YouTube makes off of the ads, that the ad revenue, like that's irrelevant to me as a user of the product. What I always thought was cool is that you could skip the ad. What I hated about any other type of television program or something, I remember a while ago when we first got the video on demand service, you could first watch anything on demand with no commercials. And then they decided, well, you know, we're greedy and we want to make more money.
Put it at the beginning.
So we're going to do in the beginning, and that's what it started. And but you could skip it. Well, you could skip it.
You could.
And then it became to non-skippable, and not only in the middle, it's like, okay. And that's just what the issue is if you want to put a commercial in there, then make it skippable so that if I don't want to watch it,
first of all, do you know the reason why that they had to start doing the advertising on demand to begin with?
No, I don't.
It's because everybody was watching on demand instead of the channels. So the advertisers weren't happy with that. Yeah. And the channel networks were actually losing money. Yeah. So it's this fine line. Now, when it comes to TV and the problems with TV is that the channel network itself, you know, depending on what content they're showing, if it's syndicated or whatever it might be, you know, these things are going to go up in price every single year, every single time the contract. So they need to make more money, and then the advertisers need to make more. So how they do, you know, so certain channels might stretch out their show. Instead of being 30-minute segment, it might be 38-minute segment, and just add 8 minutes of commercials into that 30-minute segment. So instead of a show being 23 minutes, it's still 23 minutes. It's just instead of 30-minute, it's now 38. Yeah. So instead of 7 minutes commercial, it's got 15.
Yeah. And it's ridiculous. And first of all, I don't want to watch your commercials. It's the skippable part. You want to put a commercial, like that's what's cool about YouTube is that what I would, if I wanted to skip it, I should be able to skip it, but they only show 3 to 5 seconds from what I've seen. Okay. And I get to skip it.
Now here's the difference though with advertising on YouTube. First of all, on TV, you have to pay for that service, and then you get advertising on top of it.
Yep.
I can understand advertisements on news. I can understand advertisements on late shows because you need to take a break. It's happening here and now. A lot of it's live. I mean, obviously late shows are pre-recorded, but when they weren't, they were when it's live, even radio shows on the radio, you know, I can understand these breaks where you need the advertising because the jockeys or the TV hosts, they need the break.
Well,
they
need to get the water. They need to go to the bathroom.
They need to do this. Yeah. And that makes sense. That's cool. But YouTube is a free service for all people.
And I can skip the ad if I don't care about what they're saying. I like boop, and nobody's forcing me to watch their ad on most of them.
But
which is what is the great part about
it. You're probably going to see a little bit more ad on YouTube, but the thing is, again, you don't have to watch. I mean, you pick and choose what you want. So if you want to watch a certain content creator, you should be happy in the fact that you're getting that, you're getting that content for free.
Yeah.
And that revenue, the majority is going to that content creator. Yeah. So you're helping to back them.
No, that's not what the issue is for me. It's just the skippable part of it. I don't like people forcing me to do things. And if you're going to force me to watch a commercial about something that I don't care about.
Yeah, but then the whole thing is, but we don't have to force you to watch that video to begin with.
And then the content creators lose out because then people aren't going to watch their videos.
Then if you want to cut out ads altogether, you can get the YouTube monthly service. Yeah. I think it's YouTube Red or something like that. I don't even remember.
No, it's the skippable part. I have no problem with ads, but just give me the control to skip it if I want to. Because guess what? If I'm going to skip your ad, I'm not going to buy whatever you're selling in the first place. I watch commercials that are interesting about something that I might want. In fact,
that's the big thing though with ads on YouTube is most of them are going to be targeted. So like on my channel, I have Liberty Mutual usually on mine. Yeah. I have, oil commercials. So like Valvoline or there's usually stuff like that's on my ads because it's dealt with driving. It's dealt with things like that. So it's more relevant to that. So they're not going to show My Little Pony on my channel because it just doesn't make sense. Yeah. So like, when you're watching TV and you're watching videos that you can't skip because you can't unless you record it and then fast forward it later. They're going to get to the audience, the majority audience that watches that. So if you're watching Grey's Anatomy, it might be mostly like the background of the people who are watching it might be mostly women who are from 34 to 55. So that's the target market they're going to try to advertise to. Yeah. And then let's say there's a strong demographic of, let's just say, men from 18 to 25 for some reason. I don't know why. Let's just say that. Then they're going to throw a couple of ads in there that'll target that demographic as well too. But the majority of it will be towards women in that age group. Yeah. Or whoever is in that targeted group. So like the X Games are going to be next week. Yeah. So if you watch the X Games,
lots of monster commercials.
Most of the commercials are going to be geared towards something in that arena of X Games or adrenaline or just the junkiness of that. So you're probably going to see a lot of Red Bull commercials. You're probably going to see a lot of easy food commercials.
It's the skippable part. Like YouTube has a great thing going on right now with it's a 3 to 5 second and I can skip it and then I'm into the content that I want to watch. And if it's something that's interesting, in fact, you know what? A lot of, like we mentioned Joe Rogan a bunch of times. He always has advertisements at the beginning of his podcast. And I checked out a lot of the stuff because it's stuff that relates to me. Like I'm much more, and I can skip over it if I don't like what they're talking about. And they're talking about different website developing things that you could do. Maybe I want a website. Just their sponsors are things that I pay attention to. And if I don't like what their commercial is, then I fast forward to where they get into the part. It's the skippable part. It's not the advertisements that bother me. It's the no control over. I don't want to watch.
Well, I'll tell you what. Again, the person I have 100% control on what ads I want. So I can say I want skippable ads on, or I can put non-skippable ads. I could shift it completely to non-skippable ads. Yeah. And you have to watch the 13, 15 second ad, the 5 second ad. That's the other thing too. Because it's the 5 second skippable ad, there's a lot, instead of just taking an ad, like, let's just say Bud Light.
Yeah.
But instead of Bud Light doing a 15-second commercial or a 30-second Super Bowl commercial, and taking that and throwing it on YouTube and saying, we want to use this commercial and push it out to everybody, the bulk of the that content is actually in the last few seconds for a Bud Light commercial, or most 30-second commercials, especially like Super Bowl, because they always tell some stupid little story at the beginning. So if it's skippable, you don't know what that is. So if you see a lot of advertisements, they'll actually advertise now at the front end within the first 5 to 8 seconds. And it's front end heavy now. And that's a smart way to do it. So you see a lot of advertising doing that now. So that's why you get that.
That's perfect. And also, and you made a great point, like advertising me a Bud Light commercial is not, I don't drink. So you're wasting your time. And that's a commercial that I like, boop, skip right over. So you're not wasting my time or your time. And that's the whole thing. It's just the control part of it. Like, it's another perfect example is Netflix. They want to start putting advertisements on Netflix. We'll see how many people don't have Netflix anymore because of the commercials. The reason people like Netflix is because there's a good variety of stuff they can watch. It's affordable, and they don't have to watch commercials. So as soon as you're like, oh, we're going to start putting commercials between the movies that you watch, or
you're you're probably right on some will drop off, but I don't think others. I think there's a lot of people that won't, and I think they'll probably inject it in a way that it's not invasive. Because a lot of the things is they might say, yeah, we're going to do that, but they might do like the 5-second commercial.
Well, if there's another service that has the same content for cheaper and no commercials, then they're going to, that's where
probably. So probably. And I mean, that's the whole thing with like Sirius and XM.
My whole problem is, okay, why would you ruin something that's working? It's working. Why would you change it? And that was my same problem with the Book of Faces. The original Book of Faces, like, you could scroll endlessly. When someone posted on their wall, it was in chronological order, and you could scroll endlessly. And it was great. And someone put something, it's there.
And then it goes.
Then they changed it to some weird algorithm where it ends. If you miss something, you can't keep scrolling back. Like, oh, that funny picture that my friend Tom posted.
You can continue.
You can change your settings now to do that.
But it doesn't show up chronological, and then it has a lot of the advertising.
To figure out what they want to show.
No, not only that, but it's like you only see like a few % of your friends. So if you have 5,000 friends, you might only see like 30 people. On a regular basis,
who it wants to show you.
Yeah, exactly. So like who you're friends with, they might not see your posts, or you might not see their posts if you don't interact with them.
So why change something that was working? That's what I don't get.
Because they're getting greedy. Now YouTube, like I say, I mean YouTube obviously they're a company that wants money, but yet they're a facet of Google.
No, I have no issue with YouTube. The way it's working right now is perfect. My fear is that they're going to ruin something that's working fine.
They probably will, but then you'll have another. You'll probably have another company that comes up. I don't know. I don't see Vimeo being. In fact, I see Vimeo probably losing probably a little more than not. But I mean, I don't really know of a service that's like YouTube that can.
Well, there isn't one.
Yeah, there isn't, and I mean, YouTube
if they fuck it up bad enough, there will be one out of necessity.
Well, one of the big things was the apocalypse.
Yeah.
So you had advertisers who were showing up on videos that were not quote unquote not advertiser friendly, but it was just the problem with that was it was like, well, you could share these videos and show these videos and put advertisements on them, but it didn't necessarily know what advertisement to put on because there's so much content being put up there. So they put these like restrictions in that you have to build up to a certain point, but ultimately it could hurt YouTube And it probably did hurt YouTube a little bit because if they're not getting, if they're getting advertising pulled from YouTube, they're going to hurt because they still, again, they need to have these data centers. Mm-hmm. If they don't, and they start losing advertising, they can't build new ones. And all this data that gets uploaded on a minute by minute basis, mm-hmm. They need to keep continuing to do that if they can't, if there's some interaction. But then on the flip side, you had content creators that were like, whoa, hold on, time out here. If I'm not making the same amount of money, I can't make content anymore. Yeah. And then that's going to hurt them as well because now the advertisers aren't showing up because there's less stuff being, especially with the bigger YouTubers, like the millions plus subscriber YouTubers. And so then they're switching. So it's like this balancing game where it's like, all right, well, we got to make sure our content creators are happy because they're the true backbone of what YouTube is. Like, we don't make content.
Well, there's no YouTube without them.
Exactly. We have content creators that are able to put their content on. Yeah. And there's even content creators that don't get paid that can put stuff on.
Yeah.
Like, you could make a channel and just start putting content out there, and you might have, in 10 years, you might still have no subscribers or no views, but you can still put it up there, and you can put out a video every day or something. Yeah. I know there's somebody I know who's local that puts like ridiculous amounts of crap on, and I don't think they have like any following whatsoever because it's just nonsense.
Yeah.
And
just out there for attention.
I don't know. Like, I've seen a 7-hour live stream and I'm like, okay. No sense on that, but with 34 views, I do a 45-minute live stream and I might, and mine is greatly higher than that. Yeah. But yeah, it's this weird like interaction. So it's you got to keep it balanced where the content creators have to be happy because if they don't, they will find another service some way, somehow, and another service will pop up out of nowhere. And you have to still appease your advertisers because that's how you're making money. Like, YouTube can't just be like, oh yeah, upload all this here. You're free. You can't do it that way because otherwise they'll drown as a company too.
Oh, for sure.
So it's this fine walk, and I hope that they continue that fine walk. And I'm happy that there's an avenue where you can post content, get paid for it, have the ability to get tipped for it essentially through super chats or memberships, kind of similar to like Patreon on YouTube, minus I think like a processing fee or whatever it is, but I don't really remember. But I'm glad that you're able to do that so you can create either an additional source of income or a mainstream income on YouTube itself, which is pretty cool. But you're still able to get all that content out there and still influence and help people or share with people whatever your channel may be about and get that advertising on top of it, while having your content uploaded in a secure facility where, unfortunately, yes, there could be issues that all of a sudden one day you wake up and your channel's gone. Mm-hmm. There could be like a problem like that. So you need to have some things backed up, but for the most part, it's pretty secure. It's pretty reliable. It's very well known. And then it's just a matter of if you're a content creator, if you're able to go from zero up to and build a channel from nothing in today's day and age, which is going to be a little bit harder because, one, YouTube is going to want to promote its content that has over that threshold. So, and the way its algorithms work for a certain particular reason, that they want to be able to play videos where they're also able to get paid too, because then they're able to help expand their business and their storage facilities and all of those things. So it's good for that aspect, but it's also bad for new creators that are trying or want to do it. It's just a matter of now at the beginning, you got to work harder and harder and harder to differentiate yourself and to grow yourself and to become. And then all of a sudden, once you're able to hit that threshold, you kind of get a sigh of relief where you still got to work hard, and then hopefully your interest will compound.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. I just hope they don't ruin it.
Yeah, same here, because it's, like I said, it's a pretty good extra source of income for some people, and main income for quite a few YouTubers out there who have nice big following channels.
Have you seen the movie Into the Wild?
No.
It was, I think, in 1996 it came out.
No.
So in 1992, a dude graduated college and decided that he didn't want to fit into the mold of what you're supposed to be in society, and decided that he was going to hitchhike and travel the country, which he did. He ended up in Alaska, and after an adventure, and then he was living in an abandoned bus. And in the movie Into the Wild, spoiler alert for people who've never seen it, in the movie, in the bus, he has this little guide of what kind of plants that he can eat and what kind he can't. And of course, he eats the wrong kind of plant and he dies in the bus. And that's how he died. And it's a true story. He did die at this bus in Alaska. And I can't remember if he starved to death in real life or whether he died from eating the wrong kind of plant. But this dude did die. They made a movie out of it called Into the Wild, which is a great movie. So now every year people try to go to this bus in Alaska where this dude died. And of course, another young lady died trying to trek to the Alaskan bus that this dude died in. There's a river that he was by, and people drown trying to cross this river to get to the bus. Every year, someone either gets hurt or dies on this thing. So if you're out there, watch the movie Into the Wild. It's a great movie about you don't have to conform to society's rules of what you're supposed to be and graduate college and get your cubicle job. And
I'll tell you what, most people who don't follow that are the ones who are, doing different things.
Yeah.
So they're not fitting the normal narrative and sitting in a cubicle hating life because they followed the wrong path when in fact, they could be following their dream or working on their dream or doing something that can help them truly succeed.
Yep. Yeah, Into the Wild's a pretty good movie. It's worth a watch. It's a great story about this guy. Mm-hmm. And Pearl Jam did part of the soundtrack to it. It's got a good soundtrack.
Nice.
And it's a good movie. I liked it. Okay. I think it might have been a book.
Maybe I'll check it out. Probably not, though.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. But on that note,
okay,
it's been about 3+ hours, so it's a little late now.
Oh, cool.
But do you have a quote for us today?
Yes.
What is the
Are
quote?
You ready?
I am ready.
A friend is one that knows you as you are, understands where you have been, accepts what you have become, and still gently allows you to grow. That is a William Shakespeare quote.
That is a fantastic quote because we all grow and we all change throughout life. Yep. All right, guys, that is the Anything Podcast with Aaron and Chris. Hope you guys enjoyed and have a great day, night, weekend, whatever it might be.